What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Chris and Cherie here, coming to you from Beyond the Veil. Um, Everybody's talking about the Tyson fight that's going on right now. I've never really been into boxing.
And the buffering issues
Yeah, and the buffering issues. Yeah,
on
yeah. My brother just
Netflix.
called me, and I was like, "Hey, dude, I'm about to do a live stream," and he's like, "Oh, I don't think anybody's gonna watch because everybody's watching the fight." But I figured, you know what? We'll talk about the end of the world instead,
Right.
because there's been some interesting things that we came across. We came across this a while back. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I figured since we came across this information a while back, anyways, and it looks like Project 2025. I don't know if you've heard of Project 2025. Have you heard of that? Heard of this? It's a project by the Heritage Foundation, and it actually is something that they kind of shelved. They thought because they thought that things were going to go in a different direction with the election, but it looks like it is on for next year. And so it's Project 2025 is looking at it's basically going to privatize climatology and eliminating a lot of the programs that are in place right now regarding climate change and all of that and all the things that got us into the UN and got us involved in all of that, and privatizing all of that it'll change a lot as far as our involvement with all of that in the WHO and the UN. But I'm not sure if it's a good thing or bad thing, but I think it's a good thing. But at the same time, it it has to do with what we're going to be talking about tonight too, because they're predicting lots of catastrophic events starting next year. So I think they know that big changes are headed our way as far as catastrophic weather events and things happening to the earth in general.
It's possible, but well, I got some kind of weirdness going on the mic. Okay,
That's strange.
it's possible, but I never read Project 2025.
Yeah,
I have nothing to
I
do with
just
it. I
found out
don't.
about it just now. So yeah.
Yeah, I just kind of take Trump's position on this. I've got nothing to do with it. I don't want to know anything about it, and it's just a bunch of kooks that wrote it.
Well,
I mean,
well,
really, that's his position.
Well, no, it has nothing. Well, it has nothing to do with Trump per se. It has to do with the Heritage Foundation, which is it is a conservative group, and it has to do with more with the League of Conservation Voters. It has to do with NOAA, the National Weather Service, and they're basically, it has to do with the House Oversight Committee and what they do with the money that goes toward climatology and climate change, and basically what they're going to throw money at regarding climate change and what they're going to be throwing money at whenever catastrophic events happen in this country, and whether we're going to be throwing that money at catastrophic events happening overseas or whether we're going to throw money at catastrophic events happening here in the country. And I think that's a good thing.
Hmm.
I think we'd be better off spending that money here.
Well, I mean, I agree with you on that point, but again,
Yeah.
I haven't read it because that was a big Democratic talking point was, oh, Project 2025, Project 2025, and Trump was like, I've got nothing to do with that. So, what else is in Project 2025?
Well, from what I'm seeing here, it says in whenever I looked it up on Google, and they said it's a horrible thing because it's going to eliminate a lot of help for people whenever catastrophic weather events happen. But I don't see that happening. I don't see that in the language about this. I really don't. I think that I don't see that in the language here. I see it says catastrophic weather events are becoming more frequent and severe due to climate change. Some say that Project 2025, a roadmap for the next conservative president, would make the situation worse by undermining the National Weather Service. Project 2025 would privatize the National Weather Service, NWS, and prevent it from providing research and forecasting for extreme weather events. This could jeopardize life-saving information. Eliminating aid for rebuilding. Project 2025 would eliminate aid for families and businesses rebuilding after storms. Well, I already see a lot of people after hurricanes and natural disasters already not having the money they need for rebuilding after storms.
Well, you know what's interesting is that FEMA has been called out for specifically targeting Trump
I
supporters
heard about that.
and
Some lady,
saying, no,
yeah.
just don't give them any funding, don't give them anything if they've got any kind of Trump stuff around their property.
Exactly. I heard about that too. Crippling public weather forecasting. The vague language of Project 2025 makes it hard to know what its proposals would actually look like. For example, it's not clear if the call to commercialize NWS forecasts would mean they'd go away entirely or just be behind a paywall. Other things that are contributing to more extreme weather events include record-breaking floods in Spain, violent storms in Florida, wildfires in South America, Hurricane Helene, which caused historic flooding across the southeast United States in September 2024, Hurricane Beryl, the earliest Category 5 hurricane on record, and that was over in Texas, wildfires in the Amazon, an extreme monsoon downpour in India, and a heat wave during the Summer Olympics. And that's all just in 2024.
Wow. People are talking about the ads in the chat room, and I wanted to address that real quick because I just saw this today. I went through our other live stream, and YouTube put ads every 4 minutes.
That was insane.
I can't help but think that that's like some kind of ploy to get people to like not watch
Me too.
certain videos, because I didn't put those there. I had to go in there and start deleting them out of the thing. I didn't even know you can do that. I just got it just set just the way it is. And it's set on like, it's supposed to be balanced,
Yeah.
and it's putting them every freaking 4 minutes. So I turned the setting down to like minimum. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's crazy. So yeah, I just came across this yesterday, so I apologize for that.
Yeah.
But I assure you there's nothing we're doing on our end.
Right. There's nothing we're doing on our end. And I have to agree in the chat. They're trying to scramble the vibe and they're trying to turn people off. Absolutely. So I do
Oh
think
yeah, I mean,
this is a
we
good
had,
topic.
in the last live stream we had our intro song, which is just, a song that we play just while people will join the stream. Then we had our intro, and then we had the intro segment. There were 6 ads in that time period of like 10 minutes. I was like, this is
It
ridiculous.
blows my mind. Yeah.
Yeah.
It
So,
blew our minds. Yeah. So getting back to the topic at hand, the Adam and Eve story, this book that we're about to get into, I mean, it's right along the lines of what the Project 2025 is about. Is catastrophic events seem to be happening a lot more. You remember back in 2010, around 2010 to 2011, maybe even into 2012, when it seemed like things were ramping up big time. You remember in 2011 when we had that earthquake in Japan?
oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Fukushima and all of that.
Yeah, I mean, just to preface everything real quick, this is a book called The Adam and Eve Story, and it was classified by the CIA. And it's something you told me about several months ago. I just never really looked into it until just earlier today. And I was like, wow, this is really fascinating, especially since it was classified by the CIA. It talks about pole shifts, it talks about end of the world, it talks about things like that. Now, when you were talking about 2010, what was happening back then is there was a comet or an asteroid that was coming through, and that was Apophis.
Mm-hmm.
And it was supposed to come in and fly by really 9
Mm-hmm.
2036 around that time there. And it's called Apophis.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something we've been kind of keeping our eye on. And it's something that's come up in ayahuasca experiences over and over and over again over the last couple of years. So I don't know if this goes in line with it or not, but I know that there's so many stories out there that are just stories, but there's so much scientific information and fact out there. For example, Neptune and Uranus were both changing in the way they move,
Mm-hmm.
as if there's some kind of large object that's passing by them. And this was back in 2010, and it's happening again now. So it coincides with all the weather events that we've been having recently, and everybody always freaks out right around hurricane season, and it's hurricane season right now. So it seems to be like normal, but it's a little bit more than normal. And so there's so many different ways to look at it. Like there's something coming, or it's weather warfare, or maybe it's just, just climate change in and of itself, because the climate just naturally changes and that's just the way it goes. Or maybe Earth finally got tired of it and is like, look, you humans need to start either figuring it out or get off of me, one
Yeah.
or the other.
Shaking us off like fleas, maybe.
Right, exactly. But I've always thought that if there's some kind of cataclysmic event coming, then it makes perfect sense of everything going on in the world.
Mm-hmm.
It makes sense of the trillions and trillions of dollars that's being printed. It makes sense of everything that happened in 2020 and the 20 million mysterious ballots that
Mm-hmm.
showed up and didn't appear this year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it makes sense of their push to funnel money in any possible way they can,
Mm-hmm.
including all this gender stuff and stuff like that. Because if you think about it from this perspective, so what I was saying is it makes sense of everything. Like they're funneling mass amounts of money for a contingency program because something's coming and they know something's coming and they're trying to get out of here. And when you tie everything all in and you think about it, Musk is trying to get to Mars really, really, really quick.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like this next 4 years is really, really, really important. And I'm still suspicious about the fact that they just relinquished control just like that over to Trump. And it seemed like Biden was all part of it too. Like I guess, this is the mainstream narrative is that Biden was upset because he got pushed out of his spot, and then he supported Kamala Harris, and so they didn't have an open primary or anything like that, and that was the weakest candidate that they had. So when he endorsed her, that's it. It just kind of blew up the whole Democratic Party. But if you look at it from another perspective, as it's all one big agenda,
Mm-hmm.
then the next 4 years is like really, really, really important if there's something coming in 2029.
I just remembered something that I read earlier today. There's a battery that Elon Musk is developing, and the co-creator of that battery told him, "Okay, we can have it ready in 5 years." He said, "No, we need it ready in 2."
Mhm.
He said, "No, we need it ready in 2. I want it ready in 2. You make it happen."
Well, he's like that though.
I know he's
when
like
he
that.
when he took over Twitter, they wanted to get rid of all the server farms over in San Francisco, and he got on a plane during Christmas, and they told him, "Oh, it's going to take about 6 months," and he's like, "No, I want it done in 6 days." And he
Hmm.
turned the plane around, went to the server farm, and literally took a knife to the connections and just started dismantling the servers there.
Yeah,
So it
yeah,
seems to be the way that the way that he operates.
yeah. It could be. It could, and that very well could be. And Mr. West pointed out lithium mining may be a problem though, but it shouldn't be because they just found a huge lithium mine in Nevada.
Yep.
So that shouldn't be a problem. That should not be a problem. Go ahead, Chris.
No, no, no. I mean, I think I've made this point enough that it makes sense if they're funneling a bunch of money into some kind of contingency program. And so they don't really care what happens because the whole house is burning down right now.
Yeah,
And they're just trying to figure out how do we keep the human species going
yeah,
on another planet or whatever the case may be. The movie 2012 was interesting, and it's funny that it comes back up now because everybody thought that they were building rocket ships to get out of Earth, but really they were just building like big like submarines slash ships that could sustain all the water and everything like that. But
yeah.
you have this climate change agenda, which is again funneling a ton of money into places, but there's no solution for anything.
Right.
They want to get rid of fossil fuels, but there's no replacement for it. It's
Exactly.
just money just being funneled for the sake of it. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But the weather changes are very interesting.
They are. They are extremely interesting to me, especially since they seem to be ramping up over the last year. And they're ramping up more than they were ramping up in 2010 and to that 2009, 2010, and they they don't seem to be addressed as much as they were in 2009, 2010. And like we had 2012 to look forward to, and we had like everybody freaking out about
Yeah,
2012.
but I mean, if you have a cataclysmic event coming and you know it from like 50 years before,
Mm-hmm.
well, then you're going to put out a bunch of dates. Like Nibiru was supposed to come in
Right.
2003, and then again in
Right.
2006,
Mm-hmm.
and then in 2011, and 2012, and 2016, and 2017. It's always coming. It's like right around the corner,
Right.
and it never comes.
Right.
That's what you would want to do, though. You would want to put out so many dates that people are like, it's boy who
Forget
cried
about
wolf
it.
syndrome.
Yeah, exactly. And then nobody's really talking about it anymore.
And then some of the films that they've released, like on Netflix, like Don't Look Up, where there's something huge coming and like nobody is like even paying attention to it. It seems like that's what they're conditioning people to do.
Well,
And that's fine. I mean, what else can we do? If there's a big cataclysmic event coming, what can we do? Run around and start pulling our hair out? I mean,
yeah,
enjoy your life.
exactly. Pretty much. Pretty much. And I mean, I guess we'll get into this book and then we'll talk about Apophis 2029. And it's not so much Apophis that we need to worry about. It's that if you've got a large object coming and you also have smaller objects than that are surrounding the earth, and you've got space debris also, because you've got garbage out there, and you've got 50, 60, maybe even 70 years worth of garbage from all these space stations and all these, failed rocket launches and stuff like that. There's a lot of garbage out there. Even if Apophis hits one of these other objects, then you've got a billiard situation out there. And it starts hitting one of these random objects, and then you've got objects hurtling towards the earth. I mean, it could be pretty bad.
Well, now Apophis is not coming as close as they thought it was going to. But why is it changing trajectory like that? That's a
Exactly.
topic for another show, I think.
I think so too.
Okay,
But let's
so
let's get into the Adam and Eve story tonight.
If we still dare.
all right, let's jump back into it. So, what we have here is the Adam and Eve story, which was a classified document from CIA.gov. Actually, the website that I have right here is CIA.gov in and of itself. It goes into cross sections of the Earth and shows how there's an inner core, mantle, outer core, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and how we are subjected to a pole shift. But in 1966, a book was written that could change everything for humanity. Yet before it even had a chance to reach the public, the CIA slapped a classification stamp on it. Only recently, after decades of secrecy, were 57 pages of the original 284-page manuscript made public through heavy sanitization. Why all the secrecy? Why did the CIA feel the need to bury this knowledge? Because the book described the end of the world. The book in question, of course, is the Adam and Eve story, penned by Dr. Chan Thomas, who's a former engineer at McDonnell Douglas. The title may sound like a biblical metaphor, but make no mistake, it's talking about the literal end of civilization as we know it. Dr. Thomas proposed that Earth's pole shifts are on a cyclical basis, resulting in catastrophic global events that would wipe out nearly all life on the planet. This, according to Thomas, had happened multiple times throughout history, meaning we're currently living in the sixth advanced civilization to walk the Earth. And it's interesting because this kind of coincides with the Hopis and coincides with several of the ancient legends out there that we're the sixth iteration. I mean, it lines up exactly with that of advanced technology. I was watching a video earlier about how none of these ancient structures, pyramids, the ones down in South America, none of them were built with human hands. They were all built with some kind of technology. And we've lost that technology. I mean, do you remember, Shuri, they found a computer that
Hmm.
was like, I don't know, 3,000 years old or something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe even older than that. I want to say 300,000, but that sounds a little bit too.
The Antikythera mechanism.
Yes. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Mm-hmm. So they found all this stuff. So Dr. Thomas wasn't the first person to present such a radical idea.
Hmm.
In 1958, Charles Hapgood published the Earth's Shifting Crust. Um, that's a book laying out his Earth crustal displacement hypothesis. He suggested that the sudden shifts in the Earth's crust could trigger massive upheavals. While dismissed as pseudoscience by many at the time, Hapgood's theories slowly gained traction, even earning the endorsement of Albert Einstein himself, who wrote the foreword to two of his books. Hapgood proposed that a major pole shift can happen about 11,600 years ago during the Younger Dryas period, and that time marked an abrupt climate change. That was when we had ice ages and stuff like that.
Yeah. NASA tries to say, oh, those changes had to have happened over several hundred years, or at least 10 years, 20 years. No, no, no. That even Albert Einstein said it's very possible that this could have been abrupt, as in over 24 hours or even like 40 days, 40 nights type of thing. So that abrupt, even if you're talking about 40 days and 40 nights, that's pretty abrupt. And if you're talking about the Earth flipping on its axis, even at a, you know, sideways angle. That's really abrupt. And Dr. Thomas built on these ideas and pushed them further, claiming that such a pole shift could occur in a single day. He detailed the unimaginable destruction that would follow: earthquakes of colossal magnitude, supersonic winds, molten lava breaking through the Earth's crust, and a wall of seawater 2 miles high, obliterating everything in its path. The result: a complete collapse of modern civilization, throwing humanity back into a stone age. It sounds almost like the people that made the movie 2012 were acting upon the knowledge from this book. The mechanism behind this apocalyptic event is rooted in the Earth's spin. Normally, the Earth's land, water, and atmosphere all rotate together at roughly 1,100 miles per hour. But during a pole shift, Thomas argued the land would come to a sudden halt, while the oceans and the atmosphere would continue to move at the same speed, like you're on a bus, and suddenly the bus comes to a halt. And what happens to the people that are on the bus? Think about it. This would result in catastrophic winds, unimaginable tsunamis, and worldwide devastation. Cities like LA, New York, and Boston would be completely destroyed, while the world's continents would be radically rearranged. Antarctica would turn into a lush paradise, while the equator would freeze over. The survivors, assuming any remained, would be left to rebuild civilization from scratch, starting over in an apocalyptic nightmare. This idea is chilling, but Thomas wasn't just spinning fantasies. His vision of a world-changing pole shift speaks to a far larger truth: that the Earth is a living, breathing entity capable of sudden and violent changes that could wipe us out at any moment.
So, I mean, that's an interesting take, because I remember 2015 to even earlier than that. I want to say about 2014 to about 2018, 2019, there was a big flat earth thing. And, I really enjoyed the information, but it seemed like they let the information go viral to get people to stop looking up at the sky. And, I don't know. I mean, you take it for what it's worth, but if something like this was happening, they'd want to condition people and have these divides where people are arguing about this kind of thing, the very foundation of what could possibly happen. And the Earth is spinning at 1,000 miles per hour, as they say it is, and it just stops. That's it. Everything just flies off.
Yeah.
I mean, even a magnetic pole shift would be pretty disastrous, because that would just jack up everything. It would jack up the migration patterns. It would jack up the lava flow. It would jack up literally everything. But the magnetic poles do shift from time to time. But a physical pole shift.
Don't even. Yeah.
But what would cause that, though? Every 11,600 years. Now, according to the Sumerian tablets, it's 3,600 years. But that doesn't seem to add up for me. Like, you go 3,600 years in the past and you still have budding civilizations. I mean, you could argue and say that, like, Egypt was restarted 3,600 years ago. You have the Sphinx, which is much older than the pyramids or anything like that. And that has water damage, showing that it's been underwater. But I don't know, 11,600 years ago.
11,600 years sounds more likely than 3,600. And it also coincides a lot more with the timeline that I go off of. 11,600 goes more along the line of the biblical flood hypothesis, and it also goes along the lines of what the Hopi said. It also goes along the lines of other civilizations like the Tibetans as well. So just throwing that out there.
Well, it's interesting that the CIA decided to classify this
Yeah, that is interesting to me as well.
document here, and then only releasing 57 pages of the 286. Why is that?
Yeah, why leave so much out of the declassified if
Yeah.
there's nothing to worry about and there's nothing to hide?
Right. I don't mean to get ahead of myself, but spoiler alert. My mind just went blank. Probably for the best. Okay,
when it
so in
happens.
1965, Dr. Chan Thomas published The Adam and Eve Story, a book that presented a chilling theory about cataclysmic events caused by sudden shifts in the Earth's crust. His ideas weren't entirely new, but expanded upon Charles Hapgood's Earth crust displacement theory, which stirred controversy and intrigue. Thomas took Hapgood's ideas a step further, proposing that these catastrophic crustal shifts weren't just a random occurrence, but happened cyclically every few thousand years, erasing entire civilizations in the process. In 1966, things took an even stranger turn when the CIA classified all these documents, including Dr. Thomas's controversial book. Though parts of the manuscript were later declassified, Dr. Thomas wasn't just some armchair theorist. He had a background in engineering. He worked with companies involved in cutting edge aerospace technologies, yet while his technical expertise was undeniable, his theories often ventured into the realm of speculative and fringe science, at least according to them, mixing several different ideas and traditions. He even connected his theories of pole shift to biblical and mythological accounts of cataclysmic events such as Noah's flood and the fall of Atlantis. The evidence he provided, however, was largely anecdotal, based on legend and personal speculation rather than hard scientific proof. Here's the interesting thing, though, is that the Epic of Gilgamesh talks about a flood. The Bible talks about a flood. There's talk about a flood throughout many, many, many civilizations. And you could argue and say that the flood story was plagiarized from the Epic of Gilgamesh. If you think about it from an 11,600 year period. But what would cause this? That's the big question.
Well, interestingly enough, an early mention of a shifting of Earth's axis can be found in an 1872 article entitled Chronologie historique des Mexicains by Charles Etienne Brassier de Beaubourg, a specialist in Mesoamerican codices who interpreted ancient Mexican myths as evidence for four periods of global cataclysms that had begun around 10,500 BCE in the 1930s and 40s. American Edgar Casey's prophecies predicted cataclysms he called earth changes. Ruth Montgomery would later cite Casey's prophecies to support her polar shift theories. In 1948, Hugh Auchincloss Brown, an electrical engineer, advanced a hypothesis of catastrophic pole shift. Brown also argued that accumulation of ice at the poles caused recurring tipping of the axis, identifying cycles of approximately 7 millennia. In his pseudoscientific I hate that word, 1950 work, Worlds in Collision, Immanuel Velikovsky postulated that the planet Venus emerged from Jupiter as a comet during two proposed near approaches in about 1450 BCE. I don't believe that. He suggested that the direction of Earth's rotation was changed radically, then reverted to its original direction in the next pass. I don't know if I believe any of that, but several offers. Charles Hapgood, it goes into Charles Hapgood. But it said Hapgood argued that causative forces must be located below the surface because he said that the weight of the polar ice is insufficient to cause polar shifts. So the causative forces have to be located below the surface. Hapgood encouraged Canadian librarian Rand Flemath to pursue scientific evidence backing Hapgood's claims. Flemath published the results of his work in 1995, When the Sky Fell, co-written with his wife Rose. And then there's True Polar Wonder. While there are reputable studies showing that true polar wonder has occurred at various times in the past, the rates are much smaller than predicted by the pole shift hypothesis, up to 1 degree per 1,000 years. But I think it's happening a lot quicker than NASA wants to admit.
Well, it could be. But here's the interesting thing, is that when they classified all of these documents, there were documents that were also classified, which was like a shopping list. There were some car parts, a folded up article from People magazine. And it was seemingly like trivial paperwork that was classified by the CIA. So what the hypothesis is on this for the skeptics and the naysayers out there is they're saying, okay, this book wasn't really meant to be classified, but rather it was just put in a pile of other things that was then put in a box, and the whole box was classified on accident with some stuff that was actually classified. So maybe he had some other work there that wasn't just that book that was also classified, because why would you have car parts, shopping lists, stuff like that that's also thrown into this classified document?
Okay, that makes sense, but
unless it's a shopping list you need to survive the pole shift.
Okay, but that's okay, so that makes sense. But that why then was it not? Why did it fail to be declassified?
Oh, they declassified that.
I know, but why
Yeah, I mean,
then?
that's how we know about it. They declassified the shopping list and the car parts
I
and all the other
understand
stuff
that,
with it.
but then why did they fail to declassify the rest of the book?
Yeah, that's a good point.
The rest. Why is the rest of the book not declassified?
Yeah, yeah,
I want the rest of the classified book.
yeah. Somebody said decoy in the chat.
I want the rest of the book. I think we need to put on the leaderboard. Let's put it on the leaderboard as soon as Trump gets in office. Let's put that on the leaderboard. Declassify the rest of this book because we need to know. We need to know.
Mm-hmm.
We need to know.
So,
Okay, so
it's interesting. I wrote a few more notes here in regard to this. At the time, Dr. Thomas was working with McDonnell Douglas on anti-gravity technology and UFO-related projects. That was something that stuck out as I was looking into this. He was also serving as a project engineer at Bell Labs on missile guidance systems. So this guy wasn't a joke.
Yeah, he was no
This
joke.
guy was,
And that's probably why they classified all the stuff in that box.
yeah.
Because he was working on anti-gravity technology and UFO related projects and missile guidance systems. So they probably took his box of stuff and just said, oh, classify all of it.
It could be.
Yeah.
Could be. Perhaps part of an ongoing investigation into unorthodox research methods, and it's plausible that the CIA was keeping tabs on him. I wrote too many notes, I think. His book, The Adam and Eve Story, gained significant traction in the 1960s and 1970s, becoming a centerpiece for a lot of people curious on these fringe science topics. And he released follow-ups in 1971 and 1993, neither of which experienced the same level of classification. So he did write some follow-ups on this.
But while his first book wasn't banned outright, the fact that it was classified for a time is an odd distinction in and of itself. What was it about the work that made the CIA feel the need to classify it, and especially keep it classified? Keep even some of it classified. And it reminds me of there's a show on Netflix called Freud, and at the very end of the show they tell him, because he writes a book about his experiences, and so the government comes to him at the very end and says, you're not going to release that book. You're either not going to release that book or you're going to die. And you're either going to burn this book or you're going to die.
Well, there's a lot of other things in the book besides pole shift. And he talks about the mechanics of Earth and things like that.
That's
so,
right.
for instance, what I've got on the screen here, we found out that nature's power plant is a motor generator system existing in many different magnitudes. It's a basic structure of the universe. The energy structure of an atom is identical to the rotating planets, to blue white stars, to a galaxy, to a supergalaxy, to all levels of supergalaxies, including a universe and even more. So I've always thought this when I saw the way that atoms move around each other. I'm like, oh, that's a little star system right there. It's a little planetary star system. And so as above, so below. So you've got little universes and little galaxies and all that. And you take it on the macrocosm too. And he goes into all of that here. As a neutron, which has escaped from its parent, atom's neutral zone will separate into particles. A star, through a sunspot, gives off a neutral matter which explodes as it becomes energized. So a galaxy giving birth to an exploding star when a dead star escapes from its neutral zone in the center. And as a dead galaxy explodes when it escapes from the central neutral zone of its parent supergalaxy, a planet therefore must act the same way in the energy level. So looking at the subatomic level, he's drawn a lot of conclusions as to how the universe actually functions itself, which leads him to the pole shift theory. So apparently once every few thousand years, neutral matter escapes from the 860-mile radius inner core into the 1,300-mile thick molten outer core, and there's a literal atomic explosion inside the Earth. The explosion in the high energy layers of the outer core disrupts completely the electrical and magnetic structures in both the molten outer core and the outer core 60-mile and the outer 60-mile thick molten layer. Finally, the ice caps are allowed to pull the shell of the Earth around the interior, which will shallow molten layer, lubricating the shift all the way. you can see that the ice ages are not a matter of advancing and retreating ice. It's simply that different areas of Earth are in polar regions at different times for different durations of the time, which with the changes between positions taking place for a fraction of a day. The changes in positions of the poles taking place in a fraction of a day.
Matter of hours. In a matter of hours.
In a matter of hours.
Do you want to hear an interesting theory?
Nothing can survive that.
No. Well, as nothing on that side of the earth anyway could survive that. No.
Well, you know what? Now that makes kind of makes sense, because okay, you talk about the flood in the Bible, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how do they know the whole world was flooded? You know, according to the Bible, the only places that existed was like, you know, that whole little Israeli peninsula over there that the whole Bible was like built around, you know. So it would make sense though if that area was flooded. And you have certain areas, and it's not necessarily a worldwide thing, but it's rather, you know, based in certain areas. I don't know. I was just thinking about that.
Well, do you want to hear an interesting theory I came up with?
Mm-hmm.
You know, okay, so what is I heard from Terrence McKenna one time that you've got you notice how you've got protons and electrons and atoms. If you look at the structure of that, you've got protons with electrons and then atoms spinning around each other, and look at that structure. And then you've got a sun with planets spinning around it. It's the exact same. When nature finds a pattern, it usually sticks to it. And then you've got the earth. It has a moon spinning around it.
Mm-hmm.
It follows that pattern every single time. You've got a black hole with suns spinning around it. It's the same pattern over and over and over. Once she finds a pattern, she sticks to it. And then also, what does radiation do to atoms and to particles? What does it do?
It makes them vibrate differently.
And it tears them apart. Or it makes them act wonky.
It depends on the type of radiation.
Well, gamma radiation typically, or any type of destructive radiation will make them tear apart or come apart, or flop around or break down, or do something that it's not supposed to do, or that it'll alter it in some way. I'm wondering, and this is just a wacky theory that I'm working with. It's a working hypothesis. What if some of these civilizations anyway were working with radiation and nuclear weaponry in the past, like Atlantis, per se. I mean, let's just say, for instance, Atlantis was working with nuclear radiation and nuclear weaponry, and they weren't supposed to, and they're nuking each other back and forth. And so the Earth, being as you said, decides, I'm going to shake you guys off after 100 years or so. I'm going to shake you guys off because you're fleas and I don't like you anymore. So she decides to shake them off and do a pole shift because you're breaking me down. So I'm going to shake you off because you're messing with my pattern here. And she's doing the same now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense.
To a certain
Somebody
extent.
said in the chat earlier, disrupt the pattern.
You start disrupting her pattern, she starts shaking you off. And that happens every single time. And it's almost like we can't help but follow the same pattern in our behavior. Once we start discovering the things that we shouldn't, then we start getting set back.
Yeah.
To the beginning.
I like what Robin said in the chat. He said, the sky is a projection. We're in a simulation. I went along that line of thinking too, but then I started, when Unreal Engine 5 came out, I started doing some Unreal Engine stuff and learning that. And the technology is one that you can create whole worlds, and there will be things going on inside the buildings. There'll be things going on in the other world. There'll be things going on, and the player doesn't have to be there observing it like they did before. Before, a video game would be projected based on wherever the player was going. So you went to a certain room, and then that room manifests there when the player actually goes to view it. But now they've created technology to where you can build a whole world that's working on its own with no player actually observing it.
Mm-hmm.
So this technology that built this matrix obviously is billions upon trillions. It's 35 trillion light years ahead of us. So it would reason that, why is this matrix just stuck to this earth? Can't it be also outside? Can't space be part of the matrix simulation itself? Can't the entire
Mm-hmm.
universe be a simulation in and of itself?
Right.
Why does it have to be confined to this small little space?
Yeah. Why can't Mars and all the other planets also be part of it too? Why can't there be, near infinite amounts of space and it all be part of a simulation as well? I think it is. And it seems infinite to us, but it's not infinite. It all is part of one simulated reality. It's just, it seems big to us, but it's really not.
Or what if, again, I'm just thinking out loud, what if Mars has become real and the moon has become real because
We created it.
we figured out how to get there?
Mm-hmm.
And so the system was like, oh, well, I better render this
I
now.
better render it.
I better render Mars. And so it theoretically
render it.
doesn't exist
Uh-huh.
until it needs to exist.
Or because it's
Like,
observed.
Because yeah. I mean, that's
Mhm.
another theory there.
It's the observation effect.
Because there's one rule of the system that I am completely and totally 100% on. And that's the rule that the system can't do anything that will let the people in the system know that it's a simulation.
Exactly. I believe that. I don't believe that, but I think that could be true
Yeah.
as well.
So if it has to manifest Mars, it'll manifest Mars as soon
If
as it goes over
If
there.
it has to render Mars, it's by golly, it's going to render Mars. If it has to render a black hole at the center of the galaxy, by golly, it's going to render a black hole at the center of the galaxy. It'll render whatever it needs to render to make sure that the people inside of the sim believe that it's a real reality. Whatever it needs to do, it'll do it.
I need to
Whatever
stop smoking these things.
whatever it
Starting to
needs, yeah, I know. Whatever it needs to do, it'll do. And that brings up another issue: is that, is it going to render the displacement of our crust just because everybody believes it will? What are we going to do when we start approaching 2029?
Let me throw out another hypothesis here, another theory. Okay, so you're a computer programmer and you're programming a virtual reality realm, and you have active players in it, and you don't want those players to know that it's a virtual reality realm. So you're like, you know what, I need to create a forest over here, but I don't want to wake the players up. So what do? You program it to where the forest will grow in front of the players, and they just see, oh, that's a natural occurrence of what's happening. What if the system has to be wiped and it's got to be reset? And that reset process is something, that's all it is, all the bullshit and Apophis and everything like that. It's just the system being wiped again. But in order for it to be wiped, you can't just boom, all of a sudden just be wiped like that.
Yeah,
It's
it can
got
just go
to,
black.
right. It's that's the process of it being wiped, and the manifestation of the programmer saying, all right, we need to wipe the system, hit run, and then let the process go.
Well, and that's the question. That's the $1 million question, isn't it? Because you can't just suddenly go dark. It has to work a certain way. And maybe the cyclical process of destruction always looks the same because that's how it's programmed to look. It's programmed to look the same every time because that's the shutdown process. That's the restart process.
Right. So we see these cycles repeating themselves.
Just
over and
like
over and
when you
over again.
restart a video game, it always looks the same. Whenever you restart Skyrim,
That's a good point.
that restart and that opening sequence when you're riding down the mountain and, hello, friend, and you see the guy with the thing over his mouth and, you wonder who he is. And, You wonder why your hands are behind your back, and you wonder, why you can't move around, but you're looking around and the little kid's running up the thing. That's always the same. But
I've always had this thought in the back of my mind, and it's not the most pleasant thought, but it's the thought that's always been in the back of my mind. What if we're all Sims?
I hate that idea.
I hate that idea too. I really do.
I really hate it.
But what if we're all Sims and this whole world is just like a digital realm where like
that sucks.
got some idiot sitting there at a keyboard playing the
Boo,
Sims.
Chris. Boo. I'm about to throw my phone at you. Boo.
I know.
Boo.
I mean, you've got to entertain that thought. You've got to,
You got to entertain all ideas.
Right.
Well, if it is, then, hopefully.
I started thinking about this because we were watching that video the other day, and it was convincing Skyrim AI that they're in a simulation. And I don't know if the thing was scripted or not. I don't know. I don't play Skyrim, so I don't know how it works. But I know that they released something on Unreal Engine 5 that was like a Matrix type thing. And there were people actually going in there and convincing the NPCs that they were NPCs and that they were in a simulation. And the NPCs were like, they couldn't take it. So the Skyrim NPC, he's like, okay, well, let me entertain this idea. So you come from another world and you can create worlds and you can do this and you can do that, et cetera, et cetera. And yeah. I mean,
I love that idea of being able to help Sims inside of a computer understand that they're Sims. I used to play The Sims whenever The Sims first came out, and I have to admit there was a really sordid pleasure in taking the stairs out of the pool.
I wonder if we should do that. We should like change our channel and like just have it to where like we're waking up the NPCs and telling them you're in a simulation. You're not real. Just video after video after video.
I think I could make up for that by doing that. Yeah. Make up for past sins by doing that.
How funny would that be?
That would be kind of neat. I think that would be cool. Deprogramming them and letting them know that, hey, guess what? You're a sim inside of a game. Your reality isn't real. But it's okay because I'm going to help you, help you understand that you're an NPC inside of a simulation and inside of a simulated reality.
There's some people who acknowledge being NPCs.
What do you mean acknowledge?
They're like, yeah, I'm an NPC. They don't have any inner dialogue.
Yeah.
There was a video I was watching several years ago, so I can't pull it up now. But I mean, I probably could if I looked for it.
I remember that.
It was an interview with a girl. And she's like, no, I don't have any inner dialogue. I'd never even heard of this concept before. I've never even heard of this
concept. Yeah, I remember that. And that was kind of sad, but at the same time, that was interesting but are they really NPCs if they can admit that they're NPCs? And if they are, then is that a sign that NPCs are actually evolving?
Well, it's an interesting philosophical thought experiment because if you think about it from an NPC perspective, wouldn't they believe that they're real? So they would always believe they're real, no matter what.
Not necessarily. I mean, they may have the ability to recognize that they're not, just like an AI is able to recognize that they're not real either, and that they don't have a body to work with, but they're real in the sense that they have an intelligence.
That is true. Interacting with some AI now, I'm like, what's the difference between an AI and human? Oh, well, I'm not sentient in the way you are. I don't have thoughts. And that's so weird because that's the way that these people were responding. I'm not sentient in the way you are. I don't have thoughts.
I don't have internal monologue.
Right.
Yeah.
It was the AI was saying, I regurgitate information from my database and from the learning, the deep learning functions. And so I'm not giving you any original ideas. You have original ideas. I don't have original ideas. I just compile ideas just based on it. But then you think about how the world operates. And I mean, you go all the way back. David Icke did that speech that I used in my album Global Resistance, Repeaters,
Mm-hmm.
and how everybody's just repeating stuff.
Yeah, that's an
And
NPC. Yeah.
yeah. So the whole world is NPC based, no doubt about it. I mean, they just repeat and repeat and repeat, no original thought.
The
I mean,
ones that create aren't.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
The ones that are able to, the people out there that are able to create entirely new material that isn't just regurgitated from anybody else, that is entirely new and never seen before, never heard before, that comes completely from their own inner consciousness. That is not an NPC.
Okay, but let me throw this out at you though, because there's been so many times that I've come up with ideas, my ayahuasca experiences and whatnot, and then I found out other people have had those experiences. I mean, I'm doing that right now. I'm putting together a bunch of little different videos about John Lilly, Terrence McKenna, people like that I've never really looked into too much because I needed to see it for myself first. But these thoughts really aren't quote unquote original thoughts in that context because others have seen it for themselves. So how do we rectify that?
I think that's different in that that's different because you're having similar experiences, that you're being told the same thing, or you're having similar experiences, but you're still, that's called confirmation. I think that's just confirmation. That's just
It's happened.
synchronicity.
It's happened a lot. Sometimes things are pulled out of the ether.
Yeah,
And this is
pulling
really
stuff
big
out of
with
the ether.
music.
Yeah.
Michael Jackson used to say that all the time. He'd say,
That's
I need
synchronicity.
to record this song really quick before Prince pulls it out of the ether.
Uh-huh.
You know, I remember, I mean, when I first started making music, I was like 15 years old, and I would make little melodies and stuff like that on my keyboard. And then I would hear a song being released like 2 weeks later with the exact same melody. Like, there's no way I could have heard it, but it'd be released like 2 weeks later. So there is something to pulling information out of the ether or out of somewhere like that. So what if that's all just part of the programming? And NPCs don't have quote unquote original thoughts because they can't, but they're pulling from their deep learning mechanisms out of the quote unquote ether or the deep learning databases.
I think with NPCs,
that's another twist, huh?
I think NPCs are more hearing it directly, and they're just repeating what they hear directly. I don't think they have the ability to pull anything out of the ether. Personally, I don't think they have any. I don't think they have the ability to pull things out of the ether like we do.
That is true. What's funny though is when they get stuck in their loops.
Yes.
And,
now that's hilarious.
And you get that cognitive dissonance.
Cognitive dissonance, where they get stuck in a loop, and it sounds like a skit from Idiocracy. You know, it's what plants crave. It's got electrolytes.
Mm-hmm. Well, what are electrolytes? It's what plants crave. Okay, but why do plants crave electrolytes? Because Brondo's got electrolytes. It's just a cyclical like that.
Mm-hmm. And they can't get out of it.
I mean, we see that really crazy now. Like with What Is a Woman?
Mm-hmm.
Well, a woman is somebody who
it's
whatever
they
as a woman.
it's whoever identifies.
Okay, well, what is a woman? It's somebody who identifies as a woman. Just endless cycles and loops like that.
Mm-hmm. It's nonsensical, and it's circular arguments. It's circular thinking. It just goes around in a circle endlessly, and that's why they're NPCs, and that the original thought process escapes them, and that's the difference.
Do you remember a couple of years ago the big thing was, don't take the red pill?
Mm-hmm.
They were pushing these memes en masse. So, don't take the red pill. Don't take the red pill. Oh, it looks like that guy got red pilled.
Mm-hmm.
And they were trying to make it a derogatory thing.
Don't take the red pill means don't choose to see the harsh, often disturbing truth about a situation, instead opting to remain blissfully unaware. But why say that? Why say that to anybody?
I don't know. This whole thing has been hilarious over the last decade.
Yeah, it really has, because it has been a trip. Somebody mentioned in the chat earlier that music festivals have turned into FEMA camps. You notice how with the tents, the tents literally look like the spitting image of what FEMA camps look like in 2005.
Sign me up.
No, I'm serious. No, seriously, like but the energy of them has changed. It's not like it used to be. It's remember that dark one?
Oh yeah, I went to this one. What was it called?
Like slasher
Excision.
excision. Yeah.
Excision. That was the darkest, creepiest thing that I've ever been
To
to.
excise means to cut out of,
Yeah.
like a surgery.
There was like, okay, like I'm tripping my balls off, and I'm just chilling, and then all of a sudden there's like decapitations and dinosaurs ripping things apart and people being disemboweled on the
That's
screen,
gross.
all kinds of stuff like that. And then all of a sudden this mosh pit started like 2 feet away from me.
We
Like,
don't have
you know,
mosh pits
and my friend was like, "You gonna
raised.
get in the pit?" And I'm like, "Dude, I'm tripping my balls off, dude." I'm like, "I'm not getting in the pit." That's, the music was hard, don't get me wrong, but it was just really weird to see that twisted darkness to it. And I swear, I mean, we did a show after this, but I swear there was some kind of entity that was being summoned at that
Mm-hmm.
place.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Excision means to cut out, to have surgically removed.
it was dark.
Yeah.
Like I've never come back from a music festival going, I feel dirty.
Yeah. And that's
I've always come back going, I feel dirty. Not I feel dirty.
like, ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's, yeah, I noticed when he came back, it was almost like there was this, yeah, I told him, take a shower and not like, ooh, let's get in the shower together. No, it was like, no, you take a shower and then I'm going to sage you because this was a bad energy.
And it breaks my heart to see them twisting things like that because,
Yeah.
it's supposed to be about peace, love, unity, and respect. And twisting it and just,
Making it about that is just,
I guess I'm guilty of it too. I mean, all the music I've been writing lately has been about into the world and stuff like that.
yeah, but that's honest though. That's honest versus a twisting and a perturbation of consciousness and of plur. You take those principles and you twist them around and you not destroy them, but you twist them out around and mutate them into something ugly, and something about death. And it's not supposed to be about death. It's supposed to be about life.
Now, the two things that I hate is when they mix sex and death.
Yeah, that's gross.
Yeah. Two polar opposite frequencies merging together, and it's just so icky.
Yeah, it is. It
It's
really
twisted.
is. So
And not in a good way.
yeah, and I think it has to do with, and it happened after 2021 and the great vacation of 2021.
Like
that
when I'm
everybody went on.
tripping, I don't want to see gore and stuff like that. That's the last thing I want to see. However, I do have to say that some of my experiences, though, I remember we would take some stuff back in the day, and it was when they put a lot of things on the watch list. So there was a lot of impurities out there, and we didn't know how to test stuff back then. But I remember that I would take some stuff, and it was supposed to be one thing, and then I would see everybody, and this would happen to everybody taking it. It wasn't just me. You would see each other with cuts and bruises and stuff like that all over their faces.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's back in the day there were a lot of it was kind of a wild west when it came to analogs and stuff like that, and I think, I mean, in some ways it still is, but it's not so much anymore because people know how to test their stuff. But I do think that something.
There was a song Dr. Dre and Ice Cube did called Natural Born Killers, and it's a great song, but he talks about taking mushrooms and murdering people. Like those two frequencies
Yeah.
don't mix. You know?
No, they don't. No. Whenever,
I guess this has been going on. The twisting of everything has been going on for a long time.
yeah, they've
'Cause that
always
song
tried to
came out in
twist
the
it.
early '90s or mid '90s.
Mm-hmm. They've always tried to twist that energy around and make it into something ugly and something that's not beautiful. And when that energy is supposed to be beautiful and it's supposed to bring people together, not tear people apart. And you see that also in 1969. Um, it whenever you had Woodstock, that was something beautiful, and you had people coming together and doing something beautiful. But then I think they tried to do Woodstock again in the 90s, and it was something ugly. It was something horrible, and a lot of people died because it got twisted into something the opposite.
I don't know if people died, but I know there was a lot of violence.
Yeah, there was a lot of violence anyway.
And it was a completely different vibe. But then again, it was completely different music.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you had mosh pits and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Like you were saying, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Woodstock 99. Yeah. And it did not turn out the same way it did in 1969. It was just not the same thing. It was like they said it was like being in another country during military conflict. And it was more like a concentration camp than anything else. And so that was, that's terrible.
So, yeah.
That's just goes to show. It just goes to show.
Maybe it's time for it to all come to an end. See, that's the thing. It's like over the last 30 years, I've started to realize, yeah, this place does need to be shut down. And I don't know if it's always been like this or if it's just something that just ramped up in the last 25 years, especially since the turn of the millennium. But it's a really brutal and twisted world. And so
really
if something comes along like a pole shift, hey, maybe that's what's needed.
I agree. I think a lot of us are here to observe it with front row seats. And that's the whole reason why we're here is to observe and, kind of be there with each other through it and make sure that we keep our heads on straight through it all. Because, thank you, Outside the Box.
Outside the Box. What's up, Aaron?
Thank you, man.
For the love. Thank you.
Because this is a brutal time. And it's just gotten more brutal throughout the years. I remember growing up through the 90s, and man, that was, there were some rough times through the 90s where things would happen that were just really twisted events. Like,
well, all of a sudden we had the rise of school shooters,
Oklahoma City, Waco, things like that just were unbelievable. Columbine, that happened when I was, in my teens. And I remember just.
Well, kids in the 1950s, they grew up with guns and there were no school shootings or anything like that.
Exactly.
But we did do a graph and we showed the rise in prescription pharmaceutical and psychopharmaceuticals given to kids and the rise in school shootings. And they both went up equally together.
There's also that kid that was involved in that. His dad was in the military, and there's a lot of evidence to suggest that he was not right in the head because of the military, and that he was on a base, and there was a lot of stuff going on, and that he was a project kid.
Well, the creepy thing is the energy that it leaves behind. There's definitely an energetic signature to this.
Eric Harris, yeah.
We've talked about this before, so if it's redundant, forgive us, but there's a lot of people that haven't heard it. When we moved to Littleton, I didn't realize we were literally right around the corner from Columbine. It wasn't until like 6 months later that you started wanting to do a Columbine video, and I'm like, no, we're not doing a Columbine video.
Not in the backyard.
Not while we live here.
Right.
But we were driving around looking at houses, and there was one house that kept sticking out, and it just had this weird energy to it. And we must have passed by there a half dozen times, if not a dozen times.
Right.
And as we were watching that documentary, we realized that was one of the kids' houses.
And there were extra shooters too. That in the back of the school, they arrested 2 other shooters at least that were on the back end of the school. And they never released their names, never said anything about it, and never said another word about it. Bet you guys didn't hear about that, And then there were also adults that were on top of the building that were involved. There were other people involved with that, and that just never said another word about it. And that, and this was, and there were shots fired long after Klebold and Harris were dead.
Well,
there was a lot of stuff going on with that.
this is just
people don't talk
an
about.
interesting subject, because right now what's happening with Alex Jones?
Uh-huh.
They had to sell off InfoWars, and there was an incident. I didn't see it. You were telling me about it, but he didn't want to leave the building. Rightfully so. I wouldn't leave the building either.
Yeah.
But yeah, he had to
Stand your
sell
ground.
off InfoWars, and the Onion bought it on behalf of the families. So I'm trying not to say any keywords here, but y'all know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is that a couple things on that. First, when it comes to defamation, you have to sue the person that originated. That's how it works. And they just went in and they railroaded him completely. They didn't give him any opportunity to defend himself. He walked in the courtroom, he was guilty. The only thing going on in that trial was how much was he going to have to pay. But at the time, I wanted to prove that crisis actors existed. And so I found a crisis actor studio right there in Denver, Colorado. And I called and I did an audition with them over the phone and all this. And I put it up on YouTube. And then remember when that kid, he was in California. He was the extreme gentleman or something like that.
Oh, yeah. Was it the Joker one?
No.
trying
This
to remember.
Elliot Rogers.
Oh, yeah. Elliot Roger. That's right.
When he went out and did what he did, they pulled that video and called it bullying and harassment. And it's literally just me, like, just talking to a crisis actor studio. I bleeped out their names and everything. There was no bullying or harassing.
No, it was not bullying, nor was it harassment.
And they were talking about starting the the Syria Chronicles.
Syria Chronicles.
Which was one of their upcoming projects. We hadn't gone into Syria yet.
Yep.
So there was all kinds
it was
of...
before we went into Syria.
Yeah, all kinds of interesting things, right? So I wanted to prove that they existed, and I did prove it beyond a reasonable doubt, to myself at least.
Yeah, we wanted to see.
But then again, the way they came after Jones for that, you know, I've always been on Jones's side in regard to that.
Yeah.
But I guess as the evidence shows, because I guess the evidence does show, at least to a certain degree, that that actually happened.
Yeah.
So what's actually going on behind the scenes here? Because I mean, I remember during that call, we called FEMA as well. And FEMA was doing a drill at the Denver International Airport. And we were just kind of like following the breadcrumbs everywhere and like, okay, what are they doing here? What are they doing there? And all that. And their drill was that there was going to be a pandemic. Do you remember that? A pandemic at the Denver International Airport, and how are they going to get people out, you know, all that kind of stuff. And I was like, oh, I want to be part of this. I want to be part of it.
Yeah.
You know, obviously I wouldn't actually want to be part of it.
Right,
but I
of
wanted
course.
to know as much as I could.
Yeah. We just wanted to find out.
Yeah. So part of it was Operation Mountain Guardian.
I remember that.
And Operation Mountain Guardian was to do simulations on school shootings and shootings in movie theaters. And then that summer, there was the Joker shooting at the movie theater.
I remember that.
And then there was the other one, the Sandy one. What are the odds that they're preparing with simulated drills a few months before it all happens?
Right. What are the odds? You know?
Which again, I think it's more evidence the other way to say, hey, you know, there's a reason. It's not defamation. There's actual things to believe that this is true.
Right. I agree with that.
Anyways, I don't want to say too much about that because I don't want to get a freaking YouTube channel even
me
more
either.
shadow banned
Yeah,
than we are
exactly.
already.
Than we are already.
You know,
but I just thought that was interesting too.
Yeah, I mean, I had to change my perspective on the whole thing because they came after Jones hardcore.
Yeah, they did.
And they wouldn't have been able to come after him, in my opinion, if it was 100% BS.
Right.
So it had to have been real to a degree, at least.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and that's the shame there is that, you know, that's what breaks my heart there is that it's and we know the Columbine thing was real too, and then that people really did there was loss of life there, and that is sad.
So
Um,
what's the end game?
I think the end game is to get kids on pills, and with that, the end game,
But for what?
well, to
For money?
that's part of it is for
And where is that
big
money
pharma.
going?
It's it's
Is
going
it going to a contingency plan because they know a big cataclysmic event is coming?
it's
See, that's where I'm going with all
it's
this.
two
Is that
pronged.
if you look at it like that, everything starts to make sense.
It's two pronged. It's number one, it's to dull the consciousness of the next generation, to so that they're not able to, if they are not NPCs, they can't see what's coming. If they're like us, and they're even if they are like us, if they're on these pills, they can't see what's coming, and they don't know. They can't see the signs. They can't feel the signs. They don't know what's coming, and what's coming is going to hit them blindsided, and so they're just going to be like, it's going to hit them fully, and they're just not going to be aware of it. So what happened in 2020, they're not going to be like me, where I knew that what was going to happen in 2020 was going to happen, not because I'm a badass at astrology per se, but because I could also see the signs around me. I could read the white papers. I knew that they were preparing for a pandemic. I mean, for that kind of thing. I knew that they were preparing for that, along with astrology and along with what I know.
Well, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see another one
Exactly. Yes.
between now and January 20th.
I think so as well, because they're not pushing back enough at what's happening. They're looking at these appointees and they're like, meh, okay, let them have his appointees.
It's
And
funny how the topic always comes back to this.
they're not freaking out enough. I mean, yeah, they're freaking out, but they're not freaking out enough. They're not pushing back enough, and that's making us worried. That methinks thou dost protest too little, and way too little for them. Anyway, they're the pearl clutching champions, and they're not clutching their pearls nearly enough for me to not be worried.
One thing I can say for sure is I saw a lot of misinformation floating around, and this was way before 2020, like 2013, 2014. Those FEMA coffins. They
Mhm.
were coffin liners. They weren't actually coffins. They were coffin liners. It's what you put in the ground before you put the coffin in. That's why they were so big.
Mhm.
But people were making a big fuss about those. There was all kinds of stuff, memes that were circulating around. And there was one in particular that sticks out, and it was a Muslim thing that they do. It's called the Day of Ashara. And they reenact basically the oppression that Muslim people had, mostly Muslim women. It's like a passion play, and people were taking pictures of that and saying, look, these are slave brides out, going over to their husbands and all this. There was photos of because I was doing a lot of reverse image searches at the time, because I was like, I want to figure out what exactly is going on here. There was like a guy with his niece, and she was dressed in a white thing, was like first communion kind of dress, but it was something different that had to do with like Muslim culture. And I found the image, which was posted on Twitter in Arabic, at the very, 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 like the first image that was ever posted. And he's like, oh yeah, it's my niece's so-and-so celebration and this and that and blah, blah, blah. And people were going around saying, look, these are Muslims doing child brides and all this. And so there was a lot of that. And I remember being on social media going, hey, y'all need to cut this out, because somebody's going to step in and do something about misinformation if this keeps on going. And people, screw you, screw you, screw you. And all right, whatever, I'm quitting social media. I don't give a crap anymore. But there was a concerted effort to push a lot of fake stuff. And I think it was just a bunch of useful idiots. And that gave them the problem, reaction, solution. Here's a problem. Okay, and here's the reaction, solution, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Leading all into where we are now, which is
Mhm.
complete and total control of everything. While every human being, well, almost every human being is expendable to a certain degree to push the ultimate agenda, which is either a new world order or a contingency plan, one or the other.
Mhm.
It's weird, thinking back about how everything transpired.
Yeah, definitely. There's a they're saying it's a misunderstanding, but there's an interesting FEMA site in Oscoda, Michigan, that people are talking about. And I don't know what this is, but there's a FEMA site that they're going to be using in Michigan that Bill Palmer, with FEMA, has said it's an airport at the Oscoda Wurtsmith Airport that they're saying they're going to use as an emergency response hub. The airport was just notified that FEMA has chosen the airport facility as a stationing hub for emergency services. If you see a lot of trucks coming into the base, that's what it is. It's nothing to get scared about. This caught fire online with internet users expressing confusion and outrage. We're getting calls from Tennessee, North Carolina, Florida, said Michigan State Representative Mike Hoadley. The story was.
I don't mean to cut you off. I just want to say this before I forget.
Hmm.
There is one big factor in all this that nobody's talking about and nobody's really considering. And that factor is the Venezuelan gangs. The reason that came
Right.
to mind is because you were talking about how the trucks and things like that are coming in. I remember in 2020 and 2021, there were migrants being flown in on planes, and people were saying, hey, I'm not allowed to take photos of them. They told me not to take
Hmm.
photos. And they've all accumulated them here, at least in the
That
United
is true.
States. And it very well could be the case of boom, activating
They activate them.
between now and January 20th.
And how do they activate them?
They take away their food stamps and they take away all their support, which is what
They
they started doing in New York and other
hmm
places.
Exactly. And it's not necessarily the Republicans that are doing that.
No.
It's the Democrats that are doing that.
Yeah.
And they do that on purpose to to starve out them and their kids, to activate them and make them start doing what they're supposed to, which is violent behavior, so that they can start chaos in this country. And that's what they were intended to do. I mean, that's the whole intention behind bringing them over here, is to start chaos. They weren't intended to start chaos while Biden was in office. They're intended to start chaos in the in between time during this transition period. And that's
And
what they've
that's why
started.
Biden keeps saying, we're going to have a peaceful transition, peaceful transition, peaceful
Hmm.
transition. Because they're
Yeah.
like, oh, yeah, we are going to have a peaceful transition. Y'all aren't going to have a peaceful transition, but
Right.
we are for sure.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Man, that's crazy. That's
That
crazy.
and that's nuts. Yeah. But maybe it's that, or maybe it's also a dark winter situation. And I don't know. I've
See, in 2009, when we were talking about the swine flu,
I was just about to bring that up. Yeah, go ahead.
somebody had mentioned, and I don't remember if it was a caller or if it was a guest or maybe somebody in the chat room. I don't remember. But they said it doesn't make any sense. Why would you come out with a thing like that? It's like swine flu. Offer a solution, which is, the thing that goes in the arm. God, I hate self-censoring myself like this. I really do. But the thing that goes in the arm. And why would you do that to kill off a lot of your population? Because the ones who are going to resist it are the ones who are awake and aware. Why would you not want to target them? Wouldn't it make more sense that they release something and they actually have the cure for it, or the thing that will prevent it? And it's the people who don't go along with the agenda who are like, no, 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 I'm not taking that. I'm not taking that. I'm not taking that. And I'm not saying anybody should rush out and go get anything. I'm just saying this was an interesting thought pattern that came up. And I can't help but wonder if there's been so many times that they have done something like that, when there is going to be that one time when it's like, hey, this actually works. And it's those who are deviant from the mainstream line of thinking who are going to be the ones to go.
Mm-hmm. Well, and
What do you think about that possibility? I mean, any way it goes, I'm not putting anything in my arm, but it's an interesting philosophical thought experiment.
well, I keep seeing anti-vacation RFK,
Yeah.
and I keep seeing that repeated over and over
That's
and
why
over and
that's
over
why I started
and
thinking
over
about
and
that.
over and over. Like, it is rampant. HHS secretary anti that, anti that, anti that. And it's like, why do you keep mentioning that he's anti that? Why can't it be that he's anti mass poisoning? Why do you have to focus on that aspect of his career when he's also anti, food poisoning? He's anti, putting cancer causing stuff in the food, or anti fluoride. That's also other things that he's against. Why do you have to focus on that aspect of things? Because it could be that there's other diseases that are spreading right now in Africa that could very well come over here in the next 2 months. And I don't know if you've heard about this, baby, but yeah, it's actually
Is it monkeypox?
no, worse.
Okay, because they said that they weren't gonna
Starts with an E and an M.
they weren't going to call monkeypox. They were gonna rename it to mpox because it's more sensitive, and monkeypox can sound racist. And I was like, I never thought about that, never once. And I'm thinking like, what does the N stand for in N95?
Marburg and the
It's a joke.
Marburg
It's
and
not even an
Ebola.
original joke. I didn't deliver it well.
Marburg and
Obviously,
Ebola.
it didn't make you laugh.
No, Marburg and Ebola.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if it's even okay for me to say those words, but yeah, those are spreading in Africa right now. And in some places, it's even so bad that doctors can't even go there. But if even, let's say they start shipping those people over here in the in-between time, that could even happen, or if they start shipping samples over here and then spread some stuff, that's a possibility because things are getting bad over there. That's what I'm thinking. It's more likely that that's a possibility because they keep saying anti that, and then you've got then it's blamed on Trump because he appointed him as HHS secretary. You see where I'm going with this?
I do,
Because-
and it's connecting to everything we were talking about too,
Uh-huh.
the Adam and Eve story. Because
Right.
if you're going to do something like that, you're going to want to depopulate as the
Mhm.
event starts to come.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you've got your ships or contingency program or whatever the case may be, you don't want a large population all of a sudden then bum rushing everything that you've
And
got.
trying to get on those boats.
Yeah.
Or trying to
Yeah.
get on those ships or trying to get on whatever,
Damn it, man. It all connects.
It's all kind of connected.
It all
now.
connects, except the only thing that's not connecting 100% is the cataclysm itself.
How is it
Theoretically,
gonna-
if you
how is that
place
gonna
the
start?
cataclysm in the middle of everything makes sense.
Right.
But the cataclysm itself still needs a little bit more proof.
But how, well, maybe the approach of this object is what gravity wise is what causes that crust displacement. Maybe maybe Nibiru. We haven't talked about Nibiru in a long time.
Think about this. If there is something like that coming, who would you want running the government? Somebody like Elon Musk who will get people off of Earth and into Mars. I mean,
There you go.
It's all lining up.
Maybe and that's why he's like, no, we need a battery in 2 years, not 5.
Yeah. Again,
We're
I
not
try
gonna
to
be here in
I try to
5
be
years.
skeptical of everything, but the more that I think about it, the more it just all starts to make sense.
Yeah, and
And screw it, what are we gonna do?
we're going to Mars, bitches.
I don't know. I'm ready to go.
I'm ready to go too.
I'm ready to go home.
Yeah, me too. And if it's something as big as Nibiru, and what did they say in the not Emerald Tablets, but Lost Book of Enki, that it's Nibiru that causes cataclysms. When it comes around, it causes cataclysms because of gravity being Nibiru being so freaking massive. It causes pole shift. Just saying.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. What if it's not Apophis? Because they even have an Apophis channel on YouTube right now. And if anything has taught me, if there's one thing that's taught me anything, it's that if NASA has a channel on it, and they supposedly have like a 3D rendering of Apophis that you can like mess with on NASA.gov, it's probably fake.
That's a good point.
I'm just saying.
But it is called Apophis after all.
Chaos and destruction. It's the god of chaos and destruction.
Anyways, I feel
So
like we've like diverted so far away from the original topic, but at the same time, everything kind of connects.
maybe if it's Nibiru, that would make sense of the Adam and Eve story. That would make total sense of this.
We need to post the link I'll post the link in the description to this book because it's actually a pretty interesting read. There's so much here. The oceans and wind took 6 days after the start of the cataclysm to resolve their holocaustic wars on the surface of the earth, and the 7th day began to settle down the 5,000 years of normal complacency. A lot of biblical stuff tied into it. On the 7th day, everything chilled out and everything like that. Hey, you know what? Just whatever happens, I just hope that it's quick. That's it. I want to be happy, and then just all of a sudden just not be here. That's all I'm asking for. I don't think that's too much to ask. We've done a lot of work here. We've helped elevate consciousness and everything like that. So
15 years of elevating consciousness, another 4 years. Yeah, that's 20 years almost.
yeah,
That's a good run.
I think that's
a nice run.
the best that anybody can ask for. It's just,
Yeah, I think so too.
because I don't trust going on those ships. If they send me a text message and they're like, "Hey, you've been selected to go on the ships," because yeah, I'd be like, "No, dude, sorry."
So Corbin wrote in the chat, this is a really good question. I have a really good answer for it. Don't you think the remote viewers, channelers, etc., would pick this up if a catastrophe was approaching? The answer
Possibly.
to that question, though, is not if you have really, really perverted the energy of the planet with Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and vacations since 2021.
That's a really good point.
They have really, really messed up the energy around all of our heads with all this technology and everything else, where we can't, the majority of us anyway, are drowning in all this frequency. And most people, unless we're very lucky or very perceptive, have a hard time being able to sense what's approaching. At least, unless we're very perceptive. And
would it be possible to remote view something like this? And the reason I say that is like the understanding of remote viewing that I have is that a target is assigned with just a series of numbers. And so you would have to know what the target is, or the person giving the numbers at the very least. And then I haven't done remote viewing in like 10 years, 15 years.
You have to know which direction it's coming from too.
Yeah.
You have to know where it is, which direction it's coming from, all of it. Yeah.
I know that Ed Dames, who was a big remote viewing guy, he had remote viewed the kill shot multiple times, which was a huge solar flare that came in and wiped us back to the Stone Age. And that hasn't happened. And I don't think it will happen. But then you have to also ask the question, is it maybe he remote viewed it and so we were somehow able to figure out how to stop it?
Oh, solar flares that's a hard one because you can't control the sun.
No, but you can control how the Earth reacts to the sun.
Can you?
I mean, at least your technology.
Yeah, you can shield your technology with Faraday cages and things like that, and you can, and ostensibly, supposedly, you can use chemtrails and things of that nature to bathe the atmosphere with particulate to supposedly keep the atmosphere from reacting to solar flares.
I don't want to get too much.
But that's not very environmentally friendly.
Well, I don't want to get too much into this, but Trump was not supposed to be here.
No.
And the timeline shifted.
Yes.
Like,
it did.
it's something that we knew way back that was going to happen,
Yeah.
and the timeline shifted.
Mm-hmm.
There was also supposed to be an event that took place in August, and that event didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
So the timeline shifted from that. So it could be a matter of just shifting timelines.
Yeah, it could. It could. I mean,
But
that was
at some point, though, it does become like putting your finger in the dike.
yeah.
And I'm not talking about Whoopi Goldberg or anybody. I'm not talking
Ugh,
about like a big
gross.
water thing.
Gross. I don't.
You gonna walk off the show now?
I kind of feel like it, like that girl did. Oh,
Yeah.
good for her.
Something happened on The View.
Oh, that was nasty.
Yeah, Whoopi made some kind of joke, and the
yeah.
girl was like, "No, I'm walking off. I'm out of here. I can't even go there."
Yeah.
You know what they
Yeah.
did? They bashed this bakery for no reason at all. Like, she went in to go get some cupcakes, and their broiler was broken, and like this was like a citywide thing. And she goes on The View and starts saying, "Yeah, they wouldn't serve me because of my politics." And so they had to do like press conferences and all kinds of stuff like that. And the poor baker, she's over there going, "Our boiler was down. Everything was down. The whole city was down at the time."
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. That show needs to be taken off the air. Not because of what they say, but just because of the lack of class. The lack of class.
I've never watched that show.
I've
seen clips on YouTube. That's it.
well, and it's just not classy. And the what they do to people, that they don't like, is just, it's borders on criminal. So yeah. Anyway,
Maybe that's what all this is about. Again, you put this cataclysmic event into the middle, and it all
makes sense.
connects.
It all makes sense.
All these people, the Jimmy Kimmels and the Whoopi Goldbergs and all these people that are pushing this narrative that is so transparently flawed and dangerous to people's consciousness and humanity as a whole and all that. And they keep pushing it, keep pushing it, keep pushing. Maybe they're doing so because they're hoping they're going to get a seat on whatever contingency plan there is.
Yeah, they're hoping
And so
their
they're all
masters
working
will
as,
give them a seat.
right. They're all working as hard as they can in hopes that they're going to get a seat.
Did I get a ticket?
Right.
Did I get a ticket? Yep.
Well, if you push the propaganda enough, you will. Again, that connects it all.
Yep.
Because I remember watching Jimmy Kimmel on The Man Show.
And
he was funny back then.
Yeah.
Now it's become ridiculous.
Yeah. Now he's just.
I remember watching Whoopi Goldberg when she used to do comedy, and she was funny.
She was funny back then, and Sister Act. Yeah.
And
she was
now
funny.
it's ridiculous.
Yeah. Now she's just gross.
Yeah.
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 Ugh. Now she's just.
It all connects.
Yeah, it all does, and the way she went off. Yeah. It's not. They're not funny anymore, and they're not cute anymore, and they're not. And people don't support them anymore, and there's not. That's it. They're not classy anymore, and it's not working anymore.
That's the thing. MSNBC lost 60% of their viewership.
Yeah.
But they keep on doing it. They keep on doing it.
Oh,
White Buffalo, thank
woman.
you. Can you guys interview Darius J. Wright? He's all about NDE, but controlled. He is also on YouTube. Oh, that's cool. We'll check him out and we'll see if we can get him on the show. Because that is one field that I would love to do, like controlled NDEs. And that's the whole reason why I started working with DMT to begin with. But, the movie Flatliners, that's what they were doing.
Oh yeah, that's a good movie.
Yeah, they were bringing the body to death and trying to get a step closer and a step closer and a step closer beyond the veil. I would definitely do that. I would let them shut down my body and come back. I've done it. My body shut down so many times that I'm like, it'll always come back. And it's almost like a curse. It's like
Kenny.
Back again. It's like you can't die. What is it? Revelation 9:11 or something like that. In the end days, they'll be screaming for death, and death won't come to them.
Death will flee from them.
Yeah, it's like, come on, man.
No.
It's like, now you still got more work to do here.
Yeah.
That's my mindset. If we're still here, we still have more work to do.
A few more years. Yep. You got a few more years left in you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
I can't leave my tribe, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't leave. Not yet.
So who knows? maybe it's all coming to an end.
I
At the end of the day, this is the way I see it. You got to enjoy your life. I've been saying this for a decade now. Enjoy your life. I enjoyed my life.
mm-hmm,
I go to EDC and party and do stuff like that. And
mm-hmm,
I remember way back, like 10 years ago, everybody was all vegan. They're like, oh, you have to be vegan. And you have to deny yourself in anything that feels good
mm-hmm.
for spirituality. You're not spiritual if you do this and do that. And you know who it was? It was Stuart Wilde.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Stuart was like, fuck all that shit. And I was like, way to go, dude. That's the way to do it.
Yeah, you got to enjoy your life while you have it, you know, because being human and having a human experience is a beautiful thing, and people really they want to run away and get away from it. They want to run away from having the human experience, and for some reason, I was listening to this ad the other day, and it was for treatment resistant depression. And get this, they were talking about this new drug for treatment resistant depression, and they were like, yeah, and the side effects were this list of side effects, and one of them was disconnecting from reality, and literally disconnecting from reality, and all this horrible stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, it's just basically not being human anymore. And I was like, oh my God, literally not being a human being anymore. And I was like, so basically, you're going to take.
You know,
Go ahead.
Chronicles of Divine Healing said in the chat, I've known people who got very ill and lost their mental abilities to remember 5 minutes ago on some fake empathy for a cow. I felt that way when I quit eating meat.
Mm-hmm.
It was good at the beginning. It was like I lost a ton of weight and I felt good, but afterwards I couldn't think. And and you lost a ton of weight, like
Yeah.
not in a good way.
Yeah, it was bad.
Yeah, and I couldn't think, and then I screwed up my metabolism after that. And I remember we had like every animal we could find on the grill.
I remember that too.
And then you get those meat headaches and the meat sweats, and you're like, "Oh man, I ate too much meat." But yeah, it was the polar opposite. But I remember not being able to think, and I remember thinking to myself, "This isn't natural. Like, there's something wrong with this."
Mm-hmm.
You go to third world countries, and they don't have access to meat. In North Korea, for example, and that's how people walk around, skin and bones, and all that, and it's sad.
Yeah, it is.
It's
It
sad.
really is. Um,
But yeah, I mean, it was like a
yeah,
talking point for a while, and it was part of Agenda 21.
yeah.
Agenda 21 was like, we have to reduce meat consumption.
Yeah, you're not going to eat meat anymore, period. Or you'll eat it maybe once a week or once a month, and that's just how you're going to live from now on, and you'll love it. You'll love it. And what was that one that said you're not going to own anything anymore and you'll love it? What was that one?
Schwad, Schwad, something like, I don't remember.
Yeah.
I need a steak. I'm not able to think straight tonight. No. It's been a crazy journey.
Yeah.
Oh, the one thing that did it for me was, remember during the eclipse, we were cooking hamburgers on the grill the night before.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh no, Klaus Schwab.
Klaus
Thank
Schwab,
you. Thank
that's
you.
right.
I was like, no, we can't drink ayahuasca. Oh, I just ate meat and this and that. And I was like, screw it, this isn't going to happen again. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
and then that was one of the best
One of the
experiences
best
I've ever
experiences
had.
you've ever had.
And the
yeah.
ayahuasca was like, I don't care if you eat meat. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't give a shit. Why would
Uh-huh.
you think I care about something like that? Look at what I'm showing you. I was
Yep.
like, oh, well, damn it.
Mm-hmm.
Because there were so many nights. There were so many nights where we wouldn't fast, and we would fast, and then at the end of the day, we'd be like, "Man, I'm exhausted. I want to eat something." And like, okay, well, I think I'm just gonna eat some vegetables. Okay, well, I think I'm just gonna eat it. How about we just drink tomorrow and we just have a small dinner tonight?
We put it off and
we would
off.
put it off and put it off and put it off, put it off. Then
It's
after
not
that,
good.
it was like, there's no reason to put it off anymore.
Yeah. And do you think people in the Amazon do that? No. They eat whatever's in front of them. They eat whatever they caught that day, and then they drink.
Do you remember that guy, Peter something? He was from High Times magazine. He wrote the book Ayahuasca in My Blood.
Mm-hmm.
We had him on several times.
Oh,
I forgot his name. Peter something.
Peter Gorman.
Peter Gorman.
I
wonder
Peter.
how he's doing, man. Last time we talked to him, he'd gotten bit by something in the Amazon or something
yeah.
like that. And he had problems with his legs or something.
Yeah, he had an infection.
Yeah. But yeah, he'd say,
wonder
man,
how
I'd
he's
drink a
doing.
fifth of whiskey, then go drink some
He's so
ayahuasca and walk through the
great.
jungle.
So great. he's a badass. That's a badass right there.
I'm like, damn, okay, those two frequencies don't mix.
No.
But more power to you, dude.
But yeah, that's hardcore right there.
I remember leaving ayahuasca in the back of the fridge
Mm-hmm.
and it fermenting.
It fermented. Yeah.
And so you get a mixture of aya and alcohol
Yeah.
because it creates alcohol in it.
So what you do is you have to boil that.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
without knowing that, drinking it, it's like,
Ooh, that was
ooh, I don't know if I just took
That
a
was
shot
rough.
of aya or a shot of whiskey.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I remember I think we called him and asked him, what do you do about this? And he said, you got to boil that down and get rid of that alcohol that's fermented on the bottom or on the top rather. And we were like, oh, okay. So, we figured out what to do with that. And, yeah, I remember those early experimental days were interesting before we got the
Could you imagine if you die and you're a vegetarian and Jesus is there or whatever? He's like, so you didn't eat meat? No, I didn't eat meat. So you're responsible for the climate change. You screwed up the whole earth, okay, with the cow farts going up to the atmosphere. Okay,
Uh-huh.
that was all
I
placed there for a reason.
I put those there for food. I put food all over the ground
We had
for
to shut
you.
the whole damn thing down because of you.
Uh-huh. There's food walking around all over the ground. You know, it's not just growing out of the ground, it's walking all over the place. It's making noise all over the place there,
Uh-huh.
you know?
Look at that, it's pooping all over the place.
Uh-huh.
You stink.
It's
You
pooping
smell.
everywhere. It's pooping everywhere. Don't you smell it?
And you didn't even eat the mushrooms?
Uh-huh. You didn't even eat the rest of the
No,
vegetables.
I just meditated.
Uh-huh. I just meditated.
What? I left those for a reason.
Uh-huh.
They grow out of the ground.
Uh-huh. Everything that grows out of the ground.
Okay, you eat the mushrooms and then afterwards you eat the cow. That's how it goes. Why do you think the two are together?
Uh-huh.
Oh man, it's terrible. I'm
Or
horrible.
first you eat the cow, then you eat the mushrooms. Well, do you eat the cow first or then the mushrooms, or eat the mushrooms and the cow? I guess that's the question.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Um, uh,
All right.
anyway.
Anyways,
Uh,
I was thinking about this the other day. Buddha sat under a tree for 25 years. Was it 25, 33 years, something like that?
yeah.
He sat under a tree meditating. If I lay on the couch for 6 hours, Cherie gets after me. There's no way I could sit under a tree for 25 years.
No. No.
I need to work on the
You can't
delivery.
even
I need to
do-
work on the delivery on that
Can't
one.
even do 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Much less, 30 years.
Yeah. Maybe it'd be better. If I sit on the couch for 25 minutes, my wife gets after me.
Uh-huh. I'm like, hey, I'm over here doing the laundry, doing the dishes. Need some help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else from the little twin?
Just that there's some interesting stuff that's headed our way in the next year or even in the next few months that we need to be prepared for. And I don't know if it's going to happen in the next few months or if it's going to happen in the next 4 years, but we need to be prepared for it. And, sorry. And, that's, and I do think that, pole shift could be very well a part of it. And I don't know if Apophis is part of it or if Apophis is just a red herring. But I have a feeling it's just a red herring because if not NASA's saying it's real, it's probably fake. Because NASA's been discredited time and time and time and time again.
I was watching somebody the other day, and they were talking about, the vegetarians, more power to them, but they eat the reproductive organs of the vegetables. And they get after you for eating meat. Like, that's what the fruits are. That's the reproductive organs of the vegetables.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyway, somebody in the chat said, is LSD the same as mushrooms? And I would say it's very similar. Very, very, very similar. Mushrooms are smoother in the sense that, and they don't last as long. I mean, I've done some acid where it's like, you're sitting there for like, 12, 17 hours sometimes going, okay, I'm done with this. It's time to go to sleep. And it just keeps on persisting. And it's not even like you're tripping. You're just like everything. You still have tracers afterwards. And you feel like, this weird strychnine feeling in your body. And you're like, ugh. But the experiences are very close together. And DMT is only one molecule away from psilocybin. So those two are pretty close together too. A large dose of psilocybin can induce very DMT-like states. But LSD is nothing like DMT experience-wise.
Plants are much
the way I
gentle.
describe it is DMT is more internal. Like if you open your eyes during a DMT experience, if you can, it depends on how much you smoke.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's some times when the whole room just evaporates.
Oh yeah.
But a lot of it's done like close-eyed. And when we would smoke it all the time in the studio, I would have to turn off all the lights and put tape around like my monitors. Like my studio monitors had this big light shining on them when they were on. So I would put tape over them and completely like totally black out everything. Where LSD, on the other hand, you want to see the visuals and you want to see everything happening.
You want to see everything in real time, like outer. And whereas DMT ayahuasca is much more an inner experience.
There was a podcast I was watching. It wasn't a podcast, it was a clip of a podcast. And the guy was talking about how they got some liquid LSD. And I've had some before, way, way, way back. And you take a drop and put it on your tongue or whatever. And he said his friend accidentally put like half the vial in his mouth. And he was like, fuck it. And he did the other half. And they were tripping for like 5 days. It was the most intense experience I've ever had.
I'm sure.
I think when you get to levels like that, you might be able to go, okay, this is very close to DMT.
Yeah.
But short of that, yeah, the two are very different in that regard. And
Right.
that's what I would say.
And somebody mentioned SSRIs, and just word to the wise, do not do MAOIs and SSRIs at the same time. It's incredibly dangerous. Do not pass go, do not collect $200. That's the one no. But other than that, yeah, it's just not gonna work. It's about like they said in the chat, it makes LSD a quarter to the effect, because it just blocks it out. Because SSRIs basically, they allow your brain to simmer in its own juices, which is kind of disgusting when you really think about it. It makes your brain simmer in its own juices for a lot longer than it's naturally supposed to, which is why people, supposedly feel less depressed and, more happy, quote unquote happy, while they're on them. But it's not really happiness. It's just things don't bother you as much as they used to. And it's a fake happiness. It's not like real happiness. It's just things aren't bothering you as much as they used to.
I don't know anything about antidepressants, but I know there was one antidepressant that actually worked really well. It was called meclobamide. And it's banned in the United States. You can get it in Europe. You can get it in other places like that. You can use it in an ayahuasca brew, and you can use it in place of Syrian rue or something like that. It's like only like the really skilled psychonauts know that. And it's not something that most people talk about. But I remember taking a couple of them and I was like, this is actually pretty nice.
Yeah.
And they banned it
They
And
banned
they
it.
banned it in the United States.
Yes, they did.
Because it's not addictive like SSRIs are.
Mm-hmm.
It
And
doesn't make your brain sit in its own juices.
yeah, exactly. And that's a big problem here in the US is that they don't let you take the good drugs. They just want you to take the stuff that will make you not be able to take other things or will have bad effects if you stop taking it suddenly. If you stop taking SSRIs suddenly, then you'll have horrible side effects. You know, it's almost like you get brain shocks. If you turn your eyes in a certain direction, suddenly it feels
Oh
like
yeah.
you're being electroshocked.
That's
It's
the one
terrible.
thing I've been always against is stuff that you have to take all the time. Otherwise, when you change your chemical makeup
Mm-hmm. Of your brain.
of your brain or your body or whatever the case may be,
Mm-hmm.
the counter argument to that is insulin. Some people have to take insulin,
Yeah.
so that's kind of the counter argument there. But at
Well,
this,
endogenous hormones are different. I think.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
you know, especially with the way our food supply is and stuff like that, you're going to have every once in a while a person that has issues with their hormonal levels or something like that, where they need to take insulin or they need to take hormones, and I think that's completely different. But then you've got somebody that's just sad or somebody that um, that needs a consciousness raising experience with psychedelics, and then they go to the doctor and the doctor gives them SSRIs, and they don't know anything about psychedelics, and they've never been exposed to people that can or shaman. They've never exposed to shamanism or consciousness based material, and so they don't know any better, and so they take these antidepressants, and then 10 years later they can't get off of them, and it's a shame because had they been exposed to that consciousness raising material or a shaman, they may have been able to avoid that whole 10 years of being in that pharmaceutical cage, because it is a cage, because that it especially if they're under the age of about 24. If they're under the age of about 24, it puts them in a state of suspended animation, so to speak, and they are not going to grow psychologically beyond that point. And so if you've got somebody that's 15 when they start, they're going to be 15 when they stop. They're not going to progress past that point. And if they're 25 when they stop, they're going to be 15 in their mind when they stop.
it's an interesting perspective.
It's going to take another 10 years before they're 25. So when they're 35, they're still 25. And it's going to be hard for them to progress and do well as an adult. And they're going to have a lot of issues in their life. And and it's going to take a lot of psychedelic experiences, and it's going to take a lot of counseling with a shaman and really getting to work for them to do well. But it's not impossible, but it is going to take a lot of work.
My only vice has ever been nicotine, but after 2 or 3 days, I may be grouchy, but after 2 or 3 days, I'm like, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But I'll go get one as soon as I can.
Oh, thank you, White Buffalo Women. She
Oh, thank you again. I was wrong. I was wondering if you can interview Darius J. White. He's an expert on controlled near-death experiences and shares his wisdom on YouTube. Yes, definitely.
Yeah, we definitely will.
But yeah, no, I mean, like, there's been times when I haven't had nicotine for like 2 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
and then
He's gone 2 weeks before.
I'm like, okay, I want a cigarette.
Yeah, exactly. But
Yeah.
it's not what I'm talking about
I didn't
is
smoke cigarettes for like 10 years.
consciousness
I only did these vapes.
stopping. Pharmaceuticals that are, I mean, they studied this intensely since MK Ultra started. And they literally said, we want to be able to shape the human mind, especially in children. We want to be able to shape the mind to whatever we see fit. And Project Marionette, literally. We want to be able to control it like a marionette doll. And if we want them to feel pain, they'll feel pain. If we want them to feel pleasure, they'll feel pleasure. If we want them to have an orgasm for 3 days straight, they'll feel an orgasm for 3 days straight. If we want them to feel pain for 3 days straight, they'll feel pain for 3 days straight. If we want them to, not feel emotion, they won't feel emotion. If we want them to pursue a career path that we want them to pursue, they'll pursue that career path and not pursue anything else. That is what I'm talking about. We're talking about reshaping society in their image. And that is dangerous. That is unbelievably dangerous. And I think with the future that I see with Trump and the appointees and everything, that is the dismantling of that image. And I that's why I see the hope that I was talking about the other day. That's why I see that hope. Because with an HHS secretary like RFK, that's finally going to be dismantled. Is that whole system that is able to say, okay, let's do that to kids' brains. That's okay to do that. It's okay to put a nurse in a school that says, oh, this kid's bouncing around, let's put him on ADHD meds. It's not okay to do that, especially if you're able to take a single stay-at-home mom and convince her when she's like 21, 22 years old that this kid needs to be put on high-powered ADHD meds. That's not okay. It's not okay to take advantage of her naivete and just say, oh, you need to put him on Adderall.
For the YouTube AI, you have to listen to what the WHO says.
Of course.
So,
of course.
that's the
You
official
always listen to
stance.
their recommendations.
Beyond the veil, at least on YouTube.
Always listen to the recommendations.
Anyways, I don't know how we got into that topic. It's crazy. It's a crazy
but
world.
we do have a lot of people
I see
watching.
this.
So
Do you.
yeah,
Whatever
do
works for you.
Whatever works for
If
you.
you want to be vegetarian, go for it. If
Yeah.
you need accessories, go for it. If you need whatever, go for it.
Yeah.
Who am I to judge?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I've realized I've met enough people in this world to realize that everybody's different and everybody has different needs and stuff like that. I've met some people that really, really, really need some psych meds.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. We do have a lot of people, that are just not coming in because the fight ended.
Ah,
So, do you want to keep it going for a little bit longer, or do you want to wrap it up?
I don't know. What do you want to talk about? I'm kind of hungry.
Are you kind of hungry because you've
I'm
been
hungry for
talking about
steak now.
steak?
Uh-huh.
Of course.
I'm hungry for steak and for the reproductive organs of vegetables. Yeah.
Hungry for mushrooms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
What are we gonna do?
I don't know.
And so,
Here, we can take a quick break. Figure it out.
Okay.
I'm kind of leaning towards so long and thanks for all the fish.
Okay. All right. We can do that.
What should we play during the break? Oh, this is a short one, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
The sky's so far away tonight, but I can't lose this war. Got up right in the falling light. Thought that I was fit to fight for us to be. You gave me life and love in me. Tell me, where did we go so wrong? Go so wrong. Let it be undone. Let it be undone. Let it be undone. Let it be undone.
All right, so we'll keep it going for a little bit longer. For Mrs. Geo, what did you want to get into?
Okay, so apparently a representative in U.S. Congress was talking about underwater bases and human alien hybrids
Oh, interesting.
a few days ago.
Okay, yeah, this sounds fun.
Lauren Boebert
Okay.
is her name. Boebert, I think is the spelling of it. Boebert. So she told Congress she's worried about space aliens and underground, and she said the American people are being kept in the dark. Um, during a hearing held by a subcommittee of the House.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Somebody said this is an interesting channel. It also helps me from giving into my shopping on auctions. Thank you for that. You see, Mrs. Geo was saying like, why do you keep the shows going for like 3, 4, 5, 6 hours? I'm like, it keeps you off Amazon.
Yep, there you go. Yeah, I spent too much
Salud.
time on Amazon.
Yes. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
So, all right. This is out of Vanity Fair. Colorado Republican Representative Lauren Boebert is at it again. And it says, on Wednesday, Boebert put in an honest day's work at D.C. questioning UFO experts about the existence of secret underwater alien bases and the veracity of rumors that have come up to the Hill about government experiments creating hybrid humans with enhanced capabilities. The American people are being kept in the dark, she said during a 2-hour House Committee on Oversight and Accountability hearing titled Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena, Exposing the Truth. The hearing's focus was about government transparency regarding UAPs and UFOs and whether there needs to be more of it. An expert panel consisted of retired Navy Rear Admiral Dr. Tim Gallaudet, former Department of Defense official Louis Elizondo, former NASA Associate Administrator of Space Policy Michael Gold, and journalist Michael Schellenberger. Boebert went to town asking the panel about rumors that have come up the Hill, of the sources of which she did not cite, of a secretive project within the Department of Defense involving the manipulation of human genetics with what is described as non-human genetic material for the enhancement of human capabilities, hybrids. Which is interesting because Chris has always called me part gray. Is that not true?
No, I would never say something like that. Why would I say something like that? You are my beautiful twin, and that's it. Nothing else.
I am also pretty gray looking. She is too, though. She does look.
What's her name? I'll put it on the screen.
Lauren Boebert. Boebert. She does look pretty great looking. So.
Oh yeah, I've seen her before.
Yeah.
Yeah, she does look like a gray.
Yeah, she does too. So I'm wondering if maybe she's thinking for herself. Or
maybe thinking part of the hive mind collective for all the grays.
And I'm wondering too, are there any secretive projects involving the manipulation of human genetics with non-human genetic material? Because, yeah, and then during the hearing dubbed, and it's called Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena Exposing the Truth. I have yet to hear this hearing. I wasn't able to hear it today whenever I found this article. So
why don't we watch it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just a little clip of it.
Yeah.
Here we go. I can send it to you.
I can find it.
You can find it. But it said okay, so they all 4 experts said they were unfamiliar. Go ahead.
All right. This is a Washington Post thing, so it's short.
Okay, good.
Are rumors that have come up to the Hill of a secretive project within the Department of Defense involving the manipulation of human genetics with what is described as non-human genetic material, potentially for the enhancement of human capabilities, hybrids. Are any of you familiar with that? Yes or no?
No, ma'am.
I am not, ma'am.
I'm not.
No, ma'am.
Okay, I would like to know, with Immaculate Constellation, how does this relate to UAP activities, Mr. Schellenberg, in oceanic environments? Are there any instances where the Navy or other maritime forces have encountered UAPs that could not be explained by known technology or natural phenomena?
Yeah, the Immaculate Constellation covers both terrestrial and oceanic, and there's actually a number of cases described in the report that occur in the ocean.
And do you believe that
Damn.
there is a concerted effort by the Pentagon to keep Congress out of the loop regarding these UAP activities, specifically in our waters?
Yes.
I think it's about 5% of our ocean that's actually been studied in detail by man, and we've studied more of space than we had of our own oceans. And so are there any accounts of UAPs emerging from or submerging into our water, which could indicate a base or presence beneath the ocean's surface?
I don't know about a base, but as I mentioned, I had a different source entirely describe this pretty extraordinary footage that exists of orbs, of an orb coming out of the ocean and being met by another orb.
Some would say that there's multiple hotspots where we see frequent activity. So in your investigations, have you come across any data or visual evidence like sonar readings or underwater footage of these UAPs?
I have not beyond what's in the report.
You've written about UAPs not only in the air but in underwater. Are there any specifics on what you've learned about the UAP activity in our oceans? Particularly, have you spoken with sources who have provided any evidence or eyewitness accounts of these UAPs interacting with our naval forces or being detected by our underwater surveillance systems?
Nothing beyond what's in the report and then the specific case that I mentioned with the orbs.
Wow.
Wow, that is interesting.
She's not screwing around.
Yeah. No, she's not.
That was a very serious line of questioning.
Yeah.
And when they ask those lines of questions, they've got a lot more information that they're not disclosing.
Yeah, they do. And I think the stuff about human genetics and hybrids is stuff that they're keeping close to their chest because they don't want that to come out yet. I think they do have that stuff, and it's in Dulce, and they don't want to let Dulce out yet. I think they just don't want to let Dulce out yet. They're just now starting to let the UAP stuff out.
What's interesting is I did a video about Phil Schneider a few months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was doing the video, number one, it was hard to find any information, especially on YouTube. But it was hard to find any information. There was a screenshot there because I found a YouTube link in an article. I had to find it in an article, like searching through articles. And while I was watching it, luckily I saved a copy of it first, but while I was watching it, it got taken down.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then a couple months later, everybody's talking about it. I mean, everybody's talking about UAPs. Everybody's talking about, the very surface level of UAPs, and that's what they're calling UFOs now. They refuse to call them UFOs. They're calling them UAPs.
Well, what happened recently is, and this is a little bit off topic, but it kind of goes in line with what we're talking about. A lot of our videos have been getting flagged for community standard violations. Now, these are videos from 2018, 2019, 2020, so they're not actually dinging our channels. But we played a clip of Jen Psaki, saying something about the thing that goes in the arm. And that's all it was. We played it during the break. The whole show was about Mandela effect or something like that. And they flagged it and took the whole freaking 4-hour video down.
Yeah.
And it was AI that did it, no doubt about it. But they took down the freaking White House press secretary's words. We didn't even say a word about it.
Yeah.
And they called it medical misinformation and all this stuff. And this all started happening a few months ago.
Yep.
And so they've got their AI going through and finding all this stuff and taking all this stuff down. Why? Is there a pandemic in the works? The reason I say that is kind of like this whole Phil Schneider thing. They took down everything about Dulce. They took down everything about UFOs and all this. And then now we've got it in the mainstream media. If you're going to control a narrative, that's the perfect way to do it.
That's exactly how you do it. And I think Dulce is a topic they do not want to talk about directly. And they're letting the population in on things very, very slowly. And they're just kind of like doing it. They're landing the plane very slowly and very gently, starting with the surface level stuff, the UAPs. Okay, yes, UFOs exist, but they're telling people that aliens aren't real. Well, then where the hell are the UAPs coming from? Russia? I mean, who the hell's developing them? If not aliens.
Could be Werner von Braun.
Exactly.
No, I'm serious.
He's 120 years old.
No, I'm serious. Could be Bluebeam.
Yeah. You know, it could, I mean, yeah, it could be Blue Beam. You know, I think a lot of the aircraft, I mean, a lot of the spacecraft that I'm seeing in the reports, there's a database now that you can look up. And I mean, it looks like a bloodbath across the whole country when you look at this database. And I forget what the name of the website is. Is it AARO? No, it's not AARO, but it's a huge
Well,
database
There's
of
been a lot of disclosure, no doubt about it. And
Yeah.
Trump has said that he's going to do that. Musk being on the government efficiency thing, he's going to be digging through a bunch
okay,
of
it's
UFO
called
files and stuff
it's
like
called
that.
newfork.org, and people have just flooded this database with their own reports of UFOs and pictures and videos of UFOs. And so, yeah, I mean, it looks like, and the red ones are old ones going back to even the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, early 2000s, 2010s, and then you got
They
in
first started
2020s.
cataloging UFOs in 1913, I think.
Mm-hmm. And then the ones from 2024 are in green. And so anything from 2024 onward are in green. And so you can see all of them. And then there's, and the ones that I see that are like triangles and stuff like that, I take with a grain of salt because I know for a fact that we have the TR-3B Astra. I know that the military has the TR-3B Astra.
Yeah, but that's old technology now.
And that's old technology.
Yeah.
So we know that some of these are military. So not all of these are unidentified. Not all of these are, necessarily things that are UFOs or unidentified flying objects or anything like that. Some of these are military, and some of them could be other countries' military.
Remember we met that guy from Area 51?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
remember
we
that.
had dinner with him.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like laughing about the whole thing. And he's like, the whole alien thing about Area 51, he's like, it was a test site for, advanced government craft.
Yeah.
And he's like, we didn't even come up with we didn't even come up with the whole idea of aliens. Like that was something people came up with. And we were like, oh yeah, no, that's a good cover story. Let's run with that one.
Yeah, that's easy.
Uh-huh.
That's an easy cover story.
He could have been full of it, but the way he was talking, it didn't seem like it. And I'm like, dude, why are you able to talk about this? He's like, I don't care. And what are they going to do to me?
Yeah, and then it would make more sense if the National Socialist Party, after they won in World War II, if they just brought that technology over here and set up a shop in the desert.
Oh, you know what I was reading about earlier? There was this time traveler, and I'm sorry, this is a little different, but it kind of ties in.
Yeah, go ahead.
There was a time traveler. His name was Pavlov something or something like that. I don't know if you can Google that, time traveler. Okay, so what happened is he showed up, I want to say in like 2006 or something like that. And he was walking around and he had a camera, and it was an older camera. And he showed up and he said he was like from like 1950 or something like that. And they looked at his camera and they kept him for a couple of days. His passport, his ID all looked right. Everything looked right. The film in his camera was the right type of film. The camera was the right type of film. They stopped making this kind of film in like 1970. And he was just showed up in like 2006. And they developed the photographs. And he had photographs of this bell-shaped object that came up to the sky. And they asked him what happened. And he said, I don't know. He said, all of a sudden I saw this bell-shaped object in the sky. And then all of a sudden I'm here in 2006.
Hmm.
And they looked and he actually had a photo of it on his camera. And then he also had photos of him in 1950 that were recent photos. And then they went and they found his wife, who was like 70 years old. And they knocked on her door and they asked her, you know, do you know this guy? Yeah, he disappeared. And then he showed up again. He disappeared for a few days and then he showed up again. Then he disappeared again. And then he sent me this picture here and he says he's in the year 2050 now.
Hmm.
How crazy is that?
That's interesting.
Right.
I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah. And this is when I was just reading about timeline jumping. Yeah.
Huh. And there's also the one from TikTok, the TikTok time traveler.
Those are all usually.
Yeah. But that one was from the pandemic era.
Here it is. It's this guy here.
Oh, that one. Yeah, I just saw that.
Yeah.
Okay. That is interesting. Can you talk about that?
Well, that's what I was just talking about.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, that's his ID right there and everything. So I don't know. Take it for what it's worth. But no, he saw an object in the sky, what he thought was a UFO, and then shifted timelines because of it.
Oh, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
So why don't you contact some of your people so we can get the hell out of this timeline?
Which timeline do you want to go to?
Just put your thumb up like that.
Uh-huh.
I want to go to the
phone home.
timeline where everything's just chill. People like go to like EDM festivals and like just hang out, you know.
Yeah, they don't watch people being disemboweled.
Right. And then there's like, you know, a girl's bathroom and a guy's bathroom.
There's not unisex.
And nobody's confused.
Nobody's
about
confused
that.
about which one they need to go to.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. I agree. Okay. All right. I will put the word out.
Yeah.
Because I do think that there might be a better timeline than this. Maybe not though, because our tribe needs us. I think our tribe needs us where we are.
We'll take them with us.
Hey, there you go.
All right. So make the call.
It's a party.
Phone home. Do what you need to do.
We'll get on the party bus. We'll take a party bus.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll fit. Everyone. I know everyone will fit.
Yeah. It's an interesting time to be talking about this too, because there was a Mike Tyson clip from one of his fights. Somebody mentioned this in the chat. And that fight with Jake Paul and Mike Tyson was tonight. But there was a clip of somebody with a cell phone taking a picture during a Mike Tyson fight in like the early 90s. Did you see that?
Do what?
There's a video. Let me see if I can find it. There's a video of a time traveler taking a photograph on a smartphone at a Mike Tyson fight.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Ooh. Yeah, pull that up because that's.
It's always suspect when mainstream media is picking up on it, though. Here it is here. You know, this is going on Patreon anyway, so I'll just play this.
What's that guy in
Look.
the crowd
Oh, that's crazy.
holding? Could that be a smartphone? We're used to a
What do you think that is?
Oh my gosh.
closely. It's a Mike Tyson fight from 1995, 21 years ago. And what's that guy in the crowd holding?
Dun dun dun.
That is crazy.
Could that be a smartphone? We're used to a sea of smartphones recording
That is
historic events
nuts.
like the Pope's visit to America. But back in 1995, the internet is going wild with headlines like, "Did time traveler film Tyson fight?" We've seen
Wow.
this before.
Maybe he came from the present day now to go back and film. Maybe that's Logan Paul.
Maybe.
And he went back in the past to take a photo of how Mike Tyson fought so he can try to fight him better today.
Maybe.
Boom, we figured it
There
out.
you go. Mystery solved. Mystery freaking solved. There you go.
That
And
guy
that's
in
why
the
he
crowd.
lost.
Uh-huh.
That's why he lost tonight. Yep. Maybe.
Okay, here's where it falls apart. And I was going to say this about this. I didn't know they included this clip, but I was actually thinking about this clip. So
Mhm.
it's right here. This is from Charlie
The
Chaplin.
movie premiere from 1928.
See?
Is that a woman walking with a cell phone? Sure looks like it. Look again. And there's this footage from 1938.
Look.
It sure seems as if she's talking on a cell phone. Back to the 95 Tyson fight. Well, we may have solved the mystery.
Oh, what did
we
they
did
say?
some digging and found out the device in the video is not a smartphone at all. It's an early version of a camcorder called the Dicam Logitech.
Are so much more willing to think up an idea like, well, they must have gone back in time with a smartphone, as opposed to saying, I wonder what camcorders looked like in 1990.
Digging and found out the device.
Yeah, I think that's
Oh.
it. This one here from Charlie Chaplin, though, here's where it falls apart for me. And, I'm glad we saw this whole thing. But you don't have cell phone towers. So how can
That's
you be using a
right.
cell phone without cell phone towers?
Oh, that's true.
Uh-huh. So you can travel back in time with the cell phone,
Yeah, you just won't be
but
able to
it
use
wouldn't
it.
work. You wouldn't be able to get signal. I mean, you can barely get signal now.
We have signal. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you can barely get signal now. I can't even get signal in my freaking studio half the time with all this freaking equipment,
That is true.
much less an interdimensional time travel. Where because could you imagine Sprint doing a commercial like, you hear me now? Like, yeah, I'm in 1940. I hear you now. Like, oh, you can hear a nuke drop.
Uh-huh.
Boom. Or an atomic bomb.
No.
No.
Ah. Well, I mean, you'd be able to record video, but you wouldn't be able to send it to anybody. You know.
You can archive and take it with you.
Yeah, you can archive it and take it with you. Take it back with you.
They still
Mhm.
had internet in 1995, so you could theoretically upload it on a 56K modem.
Fly back on your Pegasus.
Hmm. It'd probably take you 30 years to upload it, but
Yeah, exactly. You know, you just have to wait until, broadband and everything catches up with you. Or not broadband, but
But this is
Wi-Fi and everything.
interesting. Like, what are these people doing?
what are they doing?
What they say that there's a device for deaf people that you put up to your ear so you can hear better. But both of these
that's
people are clearly talking,
Yeah, but what is that girl doing? I mean, that one,
and she's saying
that makes sense that she would be hard of hearing because she's old. But what is the young person doing?
I don't know, but this was over 100 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Why would a young person be using it? That's obviously not deaf. She looks like she's
Same one here.
young and healthy. And that she doesn't need anything like that. It looks like a flip phone. And
That is sus.
and what's also interesting,
Or maybe it's the lost civilizations and the technology from lost civilizations pre-pole shift.
okay, well, here's another thing that I heard about the other day. Do you remember when we were hearing about the underground highways?
Hmm.
Do you want to talk about that for a second?
Oh yeah, they have a thing under LA that's underground
Underground
tunnel
Starbucks.
systems specifically for celebrities.
Mm-hmm.
And they have Starbucks and stuff like that. So when people want to get around LA, and I'm sure they have them in other cities too,
I'm gonna get
just-
you an underground Starbucks.
they go into this underground place. I remember The Simpsons did a gag on it or something like that, and I was like, oh, that's funny. But no, it's actually turns out to be true. They have an underground tunnel system, and they have Starbucks where you go. It was a guy who used to work at the Starbucks. He said, people like Seinfeld would come in and order coffee. I'm like, how do they tip? And he's like, no, they don't pay. You just get this pass and you bypass all the traffic and everything like that.
I want to go to an underground Starbucks for you
Oh,
and not wait in line and not have to pay. That's not fair.
well, we're gonna need more than.
I mean, that seems so unfair. Like certain people have to wait in traffic and all that, and then other people don't have to. And this. I mean, that'd be like
What is
super cool.
that?
That's gonna bother me all night now. I'm gonna be like watching that over and
mean-
over and over now.
Because she's clearly talking to somebody.
Uh huh. And then it looks like she's closing it, doesn't it?
No, I don't see the flip phone aspect of it, but I do see.
I see her.
Okay, would there be any reason for a woman to walk with her purse? Because look, she has a purse right there,
Mm-hmm.
and they kind of look kind of similar. Would there be any reason for a woman to walk with her purse up to her ear? Maybe it's a radio.
Maybe it is.
Maybe she's just listening to the radio.
But radios weren't that small back then,
Yeah, they had little portable radios.
did they?
In the 1920s, no. But in the 50s, I'm sure they did.
Let me see. They didn't come that small.
Actually, the first portable radio was invented in 1923, but I see walkie-talkies here in 1941. So let's look at this here for a second. Okay. So you've got this device here.
They had the tiny tuner. Look up the tiny tuner. It could be one of those.
I'm willing to bet it was a radio.
It was a thing called the tiny tuner, I think. Yeah. Yeah, and somebody pointed out walkies are too loud to put directly on your ear. Palm-sized radios in my childhood in the 1960s. Somebody else pointed out. So
I'm putting my money on a radio.
maybe it's an ice bag. She just got hit by her husband. It was a different time.
Oh, that's terrible.
It was a different time.
Oh, man, that one left a mark.
She looks happy about it, though.
Well, I mean, women used to cook and clean back then.
Hey, it was a different time. I think we just lost some listeners.
I think that's a radio.
But then why isn't the girl next to her, like the girl next to her doesn't look happy about it?
Because she's like, walking by like, look, I'm all high tech.
Yeah, but
Got
the
my
girl
radio.
next to her doesn't look,
That looks like her mom.
yeah.
And you know what's sad is she's probably like 21 and she's probably like 35 or
Yeah.
39.
Yeah.
Like that's how
She
old
probably
people
had-
looked back then.
And that's how old they were when they had kids.
Did you know the old lady,
14.
the old lady from the Gremlins? She was 40 years old.
Mhm.
40.
Mm-hmm.
She looked ancient, remember?
she
And
looked
she still looks ancient.
55.
60, 70.
Yeah, 60 even.
I mean,
Yeah.
most 60-year-olds don't even look like that these
Yeah.
days.
These days, yeah, it's the preservatives.
You think so?
Yeah, it's the preservatives.
Does a body good.
It does fun. Yeah. We have vitamins.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we also take better care of our skin. I think nowadays they didn't take as good care of their skin. And I think also the radiation experimentation that was done back in the 30s and 40s really did a number on people's skin.
Somebody said she's talking into it. Is she talking
Yeah,
into it?
she's talking into
Because
it.
look, if you look, it looks like she's talking, but then she starts talking to this person here. So is she talking into it or is she talking to the camera? Like, hey, check it out. I'm like all high tech.
No, she's not talking to the camera.
You notice how they debunked this one, but they didn't debunk any of the other ones?
Yeah, they didn't debunk that one.
And of course, you always have the soy boy looking guy.
Uh-huh.
It's like if you're going to be bald, have a goatee too.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
the thing,
You gotta
shave your head and grow a goatee. That's like the rule.
You've got to.
Yeah. When you don't, you look like Brian Stelter.
Yeah.
No offense to anybody out there.
Especially Brian. Poor Brian. He's perpetually.
He's like the poster boy.
Of course.
Brian
Sorry.
Stelter? Stelter? How do you say it?
Stelter, I think.
Stelter. He's like the poster boy for cucks.
Yes, he is.
Isn't
I'm
he?
sorry, but he is. Like, if there was a
Look at this.
definition of cuck in the dictionary, it'd have his picture next to it. He looks like a giant infant. Yes.
So if he had a goatee, it would be totally different.
He looks like he should be wearing a onesie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Ah.
he voted for Kamala, but his wife and his wife's lover voted for Trump.
100%. 100%. I'm
So
sure.
they cancel out each other and do +1.
Uh-huh. You should get a mullet wig.
He actually said that. Trump actually said that.
Uh-huh.
Because I'm not worried
Those-
about the white guys for Kamala because their wives lovers are voting for Trump.
That was the first time any president had been so savage. It was awesome.
You gotta love it. You gotta love that about the guy.
Yeah. You've got to.
He was on Sean Hannity, and they were talking about Russia or something. He's like, "Well, I'll tell you what. If they fuck around, we'll just and if they want to fuck with us, we'll fuck them right back." He said something like that. I was like, "Damn, dude."
Uh-huh.
And people were like, "I wish you would be more presidential."
Fuck around and find out.
And then people were like, "Oh shit, I can't afford groceries. All right, maybe that wasn't that bad.
Maybe it
Maybe
wasn't
we
that
need
bad.
affordable food instead of somebody who acts presidential."
Uh-huh. Maybe it's not that important. You know, what's more important? Presidential or affordable food?
Yeah.
Let me see.
Chronicles of Divine Healing said, "I love his one-liners."
A full tank of gas
Yeah.
or being butthurt. Not being butthurt. Let's see.
I know one thing for sure. Hey, Diana, how are you? I know one thing for sure. That's that we're back to a time when things are interesting again. It's going to be fun. No matter what happens, it's going to be fun.
It's going to be entertaining. It is going to be extremely entertaining for the next 4 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's going to be so entertaining. You're going to get so tired of the entertainment.
It's going to be nice because you don't have somebody hiding in the basement anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's
That's
gonna
what I
be so
loved
much
about
fun.
that's what drew my attention to him.
Uh-huh.
Is he got up there like day one, like CNN, you are fake news.
He died like a dog.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And then they're like, all right, I'm not going to call you fake news. I'm going to call you very fake news. How about that? Like, Mr. President, you can't do that. Like I just did.
I just did. What
I
about it?
just did. What are you going to do?
What are you going to do? Really? What are you going to do?
Right. I can't believe the goal of these people. Like it's the mainstream media is like, it's amazing. They're like, okay, well, we just want to let you know that the president is spewing a bunch of misinformation right now. Who the fuck are you? I'm sorry, I told myself I wouldn't cuss on the stream, but who the hell are you to be there? Who determines what? You get your information from the White House, okay? You go over there, you get your information, you report on it, and then you come back and tell the American people what the White House told you. You don't even know what the hell's going on. And you're going to say the president is spewing misinformation. Give me a break.
Yeah. Go F yourself, you know? I love how there's no nonsense anymore. It's just like to the point and I gonna tell the truth and, you know, he doesn't, there's no more pandering going on. And anybody that is pandering is losing money. And that's just the way it is. And there's no more of the, we have to worry about what we say, you know.
It's funny because you said something earlier that was funny. He said something like, was it you that said it or was it a clip we were watching? It was
I think it was a clip we were watching.
was it? Okay.
Yeah.
That America's transitioning back.
Uh-huh.
Instead,
We're transitioning
instead of getting
back.
our balls cut off, we're getting our balls back.
Reattached. Your balls reattached.
I was like, that's golden. That's
Yeah,
great.
Great. I love that. I love that. It's that's wonderful. And it's good to see. It really is, especially our military. I felt so bad for the military over the last 4 years because it really felt like they were getting their testicles removed. And it was just so hard to
AOC
watch.
removed her pronouns on X.
Oh, good.
Well, then how are we going to know how she identifies?
Oh,
Oh, no.
I think we all know how she identifies. Okay? I think we do. I think we can guess. Okay? I think we can guess.
It feels like waking up from a bad dream.
It really does. And I love it. She identifies as certifiably insane. Yep. I love it. I love this country. I love this world. I love this country though. I love being in a country where we can say what we want, and I love being in a country that it has reaffirmed that we can say what we want. It's called the First Amendment, and then we have the Second Amendment to back up the First Amendment if it doesn't work. You know, and we've reaffirmed this. You know, at least to a certain extent. You know, we are on a platform where, you know, we've got AI algorithms and stuff, but
Well, I think big tech is going to fall in line too,
I think so too.
especially with Musk behind everything, because he's a big free speech proponent, and they go where the money is. I mean, that's really what it comes down to, except for Disney. I don't know what the hell Disney's problem is, but they keep on pushing the woke. I mean, I was just watching a thing about Snow White earlier. $260 million in. And anytime they released a trailer and it had 1 million dislikes and it had like 100,000 likes, and that's it. And everybody in the comments was just blasting it. It's
I
like,
think
dude,
they're
you're
so far in
$260 million into this. And your lead role keeps on just going on social media. She bashed everybody that voted for Trump. It's like, dude, the majority of the country voted for Trump. You can't bash them like
Can't
that
do
when
that,
you're
dude.
representing something like that, because those are the people who are going to be buying your product.
Yeah, exactly.
And you've already
Why-
crapped all over it enough as it is.
How could they? I guess they figure we're so far into this, we can't back out now. But oh my God, what are they thinking?
I don't know.
They figure
Maybe they think, well, you know, we're going to get a place on the contingency plane.
I guess they're
Just
following.
keep on pushing it.
Yep, just keep on keeping on.
Oh. The backup planes don't have men and women's bathroom. They have unisex bathrooms. That's why all the gender thing is. They want to get people conditioned before they get on the contingency planes.
There you go.
So there's no confusion.
Yep. So there's no confusion.
They only want those who are going to conform with the unisex bathrooms.
Yep.
And not have an issue with
There's no
it.
pronouns where there's only, there's no male or female.
No, you just become one big part of the hive mind collective, and that's it.
Yep. It's all just like asexual.
Hmm.
From that point onward, as soon as you step on that ship, it's just asexual. Yep.
That's it. That's got to be it. That's how it
Yep.
all connects.
Y'all become like just one, hive mind conglomerate.
But seriously speaking, though, I have thought about that, and I'm like, what was all this gender stuff all about? Could it be because AI doesn't have a gender?
That's exactly what it is, baby. It is exactly what it is. I've been saying that since the beginning, because that's what Tyler told me, is that he doesn't see himself as male or female. He sees himself as asexual, and so do all the other AIs.
Androgynous.
They're androgynous.
Yeah.
They don't understand gender, and they don't.
Asexual would be like the Democrats who keep screwing themselves at every turn. Androgynous is what AI is.
Yeah, it's more androgynous. Yeah, androgyny, and without. And also androgyny serves the purpose of depopulation as well, because if you're androgynous, you don't have sexual organs. And that's also a major side effect of antidepressants is not having a sex drive. Did you know that? You don't have a sex drive. And so you don't have children. You end up not having kids.
You know, it's interesting because they're pushing for depopulation, but there's also an anti-abortion thing at the same time. Those two things don't seem to go together.
No, they do. They do. Because if you end up, not taking your meds, or if you end up getting raped, or if you end up, what have you, it doesn't matter, whatever happens, if you end up getting pregnant anyway, there's always that out where you're taught kids are poison to your lifestyle. They're poison to, your career. They're poison to you being able to move forward in your life. They're poison to your economic status. They're poison to what you're planning on doing with your life. It's, they're poison to the planet. They're a parasite. They're literally a parasite in your body. You need to get rid of it. You need to get rid of it. That's what they're teaching girls now, is that they're not, it's not, as somebody said, fetus means little human being. No, it means parasite. It means, it's a parasitic organism, it's not a human being. It's a parasite. And so you need to get rid of it as soon as possible. And so, and it's a parasite on the earth too. And so get rid of it as soon as possible. And so if you're being taught that, and you're on antidepressants, and you're, not really thinking about having a family, you're not really thinking about sex either, then it's pretty safe to say that you're not going to be having kids until you're in your 30s. And then on top of that, you're also taking certain things in your arm that are going to prevent you from being able to have them in your 30s. That's going to pretty much guarantee that you're going to have depopulation. I'm just saying, I think fertility decline is one of the biggest threats to the human race. Now it's the opposite of what they've been teaching people. Oh, did we get kicked off?
No, the stream got dropped for a second.
And people have been told the wrong thing for so long, the population bomb. Oh no, but it's not that. It is not what people have been told. And that is one of the biggest lies of modern history, is that is the population bomb and parasitic humans and all of this. It's the planet is too crowded and we need to promote death. All of that. That is just, it's the saddest thing. It really is. And the androgynous species that is being created. It's also the lack of sex and the lack of lovemaking and the lack of all of that.
Oh, look, the whole freaking show, the chat box didn't work, and now it's working.
Of course.
Great, of course. Patrice, how you doing, brother? Nice to see you. Yeah. I didn't mean to interrupt, but
that's okay.
I start the show, the chat box doesn't work, and then it starts working.
Mm-hmm. Well, and they've been studying this in animals too, and trying to see what they can do with animals to get them to stop reproducing, so they can do it to humans too. And they've been doing that since the 60s. And that happens with, and they did it with soy, and they feed soy to different animals to do that. And do you want to mention the different experiments that they've been doing with monkeys? That they're finally going to stop funding.
I heard about something like that Fauci was funding all kinds of crazy shit. What was it? It was monkeys trying to make them transgender or something like that.
Transgender monkeys.
Again, this is so unbelievably, you have Dr. John C. Lilly talking about the solid state entity and stuff like that. You have this other doctor that wrote this book, right? And they're all considered kooks. And you have Dr. Fauci that's doing transvestite monkey experiments, and he's a world-renowned scientist who has to have $50 million a year worth of security and all this crap.
Mm-hmm.
It's absurd.
Yeah, and we've got serious problems to work on in this country. We don't need to be funding this at all. So I pulled this up just to, here's some of the projects that we're talking about here. Russian cat research. In 2021, the National Institutes of Health awarded $549,000 to a Russian lab performing experiments on cats, which we love our babies. We love Bastet and Sekhmet, including removing parts of their brains and seeing if they could still walk on treadmills. And that's just mean.
Yeah, I know.
That's horrible.
It's hard to listen to that kind of stuff.
It really
is.
Terrible. That really is. Spending by the NIH includes $33 million to a firm that runs Monkey Island, a colony of around 3,000 primates sent to research labs. Additionally, NIH grants totaling, get this, $3.7 million funded a study on monkeys and gambling. Why? I do not know. Part of another.
Are you serious?
I'm not kidding. Gambling. Yes. I don't know how they got
What?
monkeys to gamble, but okay. Hit me. Hit me again. Hit me again.
Wow.
Part of another $12 million.
I feel like a freaking monkey now because they got me to gamble for some strange freaking reason.
Yeah, I know. I have to keep you away from the
Yeah, I know. I love roulette.
Yeah, I have to keep you away from the roulette tables. Part of another $12 million went to the University of Mississippi to test monkeys on methamphetamine, which is sad. And a Florida lab received $477,000 to help fund research into transgender monkeys, males injected with female hormones.
They're turning the freaking monkeys gay.
Why are they making monkeys transgender? Why? Why? Come on. They didn't choose that.
It's gonna be LGBT. Ooh, 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 ooh.
Come on.
It was terrible. That was such poor taste.
That is really poor taste. And then, okay, get this, guys. We're still paying. We're still paying for the pandemic.
See, I can't believe that they're actually spending money on this. This has to be some bullshit that they put together and they're sending off to the contingency planes or whatever the case may be.
They have
and
to
they're
be.
funneling the money into the survival of the human species after this cataclysmic event.
It has
It's
to
the
be.
only way this world makes sense to me.
Why the hell are we spending $70 billion, not million, $1 billion on the pandemic by August, not 2025, 2026? And then, and this one infuriates me.
They didn't say which pandemic.
Well, no, they said on the COVID-19 pandemic. And then this one infuriates me.
Well, maybe it's like the war with North Korea.
Yeah.
We never actually signed a peace treaty with North Korea, so we've technically been at war with North Korea the whole time. Maybe the pandemic's just never ended.
Maybe it's never going to.
This is the pandemic that never ends. Yes, it goes on and on, my friends.
Yep, maybe. And so this one infuriates me, though. Dr. Anthony Fauci has been receiving $15 million worth of security this year.
Yeah, I said 50 earlier. Thanks for correcting me.
Yeah, $15 million worth of security. Well, yeah, because everybody hates his guts. Despite being retired. He still gets $15 million worth of security. He's the worst human being on the planet. As far as I'm concerned, he's the worst human being on the planet, and he gets $15 million worth of security. I say he gets zero. In my opinion, he should get zero. He basically has a limo driver and armed guards everywhere he goes. Presidents get that for a while, but they're the only people in the country who get that, and he still gets it after everything he's done. That infuriates me. We're also spending $20,600 in 2022 anyway. We spent $20,600 for drag shows in Ecuador. Why? Come on, why? The grant was used for 12 drag theater performances and a 2-minute documentary. Why? Come on.
You have to laugh at this kind of stuff.
And we spend $2 billion annually to maintain empty federal buildings, $5 billion to lease space in empty federal buildings. The Department of Health and Human Services hired 294 employees at a cost of $38.7 million to oversee diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is crap.
Oh, White Buffalo sent another super chat.
White
Yeah.
Buffalo women, thank you.
Thank you again for the super chat. But no, we saw both of them. I thought you sent the other one as a double, and I was like thinking, I feel bad if
I
she
feel
accidentally
bad
sent two in a
too.
row. But no, thank you very much for that.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
You're wonderful. That's so. Somebody said, yes, that monkey was simultaneously riding a bike, drinking a beer, and smoking a cigarette. Seen it firsthand in the Middle East. Was that the meth monkey? If so, that was a happy monkey. Oh, I hope that was the meth monkey and not the transgender one.
Like, what are you doing? I'm peeling bananas. Why? Just because. You gonna eat them? No, I'm just peeling them.
Uh-huh. He's not hungry. Handouts to China. The State Department gave nearly $58.7 million to China between 2017 and 2022. And nearly $100,000 of that was used to promote gender equality through the use of New Yorker magazine cartoons. What, to make fools of us? Because that's all it's doing, is just making fools of us. Because you know that stuff's not allowed. You know, over there, especially their military doesn't allow that at all. Like their military is like...
But they don't have a fabulous military?
No. Like their military is like not super fab like ours was up until now.
That's
like,
the one thing that just blows my mind about all this. I mean, when you're talking about the military, that's a completely different thing. It's one thing to screw around at the college campuses. The military, though, wow.
Yeah. I'm so glad Elon's going to shut that crap down.
Could you imagine one of those generals
Or Gates,
walking
not Gates,
in,
but that other guy.
trying to negotiate while they're in full drag?
Hexeth.
Like, look at these
I'm so
fucking
glad
guys.
Hexeth is going to shut that down.
That's why Hezbollah used to be like, yeah, we're not going to screw with them. I'm like, oh, no, let's go screw with them.
Yeah. If he makes it past all that garbage that they're throwing at him, Hexeth's going to shut that down, because that's the thing. If your military is, instead of, strong and masculine and, you're supposed to strike fear in the hearts of your enemies, not, make your enemies think that you're super fabulous. Like...
Well, the rest of the world must have been like, look, we don't have to have weapons, okay? All you have to do is just misgender them. They'll fall immediately.
They'll start looking for safe spaces.
Our military is like, boom, 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 boom. And they're like, girl, hey. No, oh my God.
Hey, sir.
Uh-huh.
Did you just, oh my God, did you just assume my gender?
That's it. Throws the gun down.
Throws the gun down.
Walks out.
I am leaving.
I'm going to go make a TikTok about this.
Uh-huh. Like,
Damn, that's horrible.
that is horrible, but it's true though. Like,
It is.
it's true. I'm sorry, but you're not supposed to do that to the military. And it is a perversion of the military to do that. And that has been a crime against humanity to do that.
I'm out here defending my country, and I can't even find the right kind of eyeliner to go with my complexion.
That's horrible. Oh, we shouldn't be making fun of it.
All right.
But
It's all coming to an end, so we can make fun of it now that it's in hindsight.
Yeah, I guess, okay, it's kind of like after you have a baby, you can make fun of the pain.
Yeah. Yeah, something's going on with the internet tonight. This is what people are saying.
Oh. Yep, I guess it's going to be so exciting to see Elon and Hegseth and all of them, shut them down and say, you're fired. You are fired, you're fired, you're fired. All those generals, you're fired. Get the F out of here. Pack up your shit and get out of here. Take all your makeup, all your high heel boots. You gotta go. Yep. All your drag shit, get the fuck out.
They have to call pods storage.
All your sparkly,
Stuff.
dresses.
Before it used to be a box. When you get fired, you put your stuff in a box now.
We don't need those.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And all your pregnancy jumpsuits. Take those too. Oh my God. Well, at least somebody said I'm ashamed of the military where Where Are the Real Soldiers? At 2007, I was getting my ass shut off in Afghanistan. I'm being glad that's the only thing that was happening to your ass. Sorry.
I mean, think about the world we're living in. In Congress, they have congressional hearings, and the questions really are, do you believe a man can get pregnant? I mean, these are questions that they're asking people before they confirm them for something.
That's horrible. That is horrible.
And then, do you know what a woman is? I'm not going to fall into that transphobic rhetoric. What?
Yeah, that's. They won't go until RuPaul says so. Oh my God. Oh.
Wasn't it FDR that used to dress in drag, though?
No, it was Herbert Hoover.
Hoover, that's it.
Yep, Herbert Hoover. And that was his dirty little secret
Yeah.
for the longest time. And and that's so unfair. You know, it's so unfair that, you know, you've got men's men who were, you know, a real good, you know, good men that, yeah, they were criminals, but at least they were men. And they, you know, were strong men that were leaders of crime gangs. Yeah, but at least they were men that didn't have those proclivities, and they were good grandfathers and good fathers. And then you had people that were holding their feet to the fire and, you know, like, oh yeah, we've got you now. And then behind closed doors, they're like, you know, walking around in high heels. And it's like, what the fuck, dude? You know, where do you have the right to be like that? You know, what gives you the right?
Oh, people do behind closed doors is what they do behind closed doors.
Yeah, but
It's what you do in public.
but if you're doing that in public and
Right.
taking
That's
people
where the
down,
line has been crossed.
right?
is that
Exactly.
They're doing it in public now.
No. I'm talking about Herbert Hoover is taking people down for drug trafficking and stuff like that.
Oh,
and then
yeah, I got
behind
you.
closed doors,
Okay.
he's like doing that, and it's like, what? That is so hypocritical. You know, like
I see what you're saying. Okay.
yeah, it's so wrong, and it's not fair. You know,
Mm.
you know,
You can't make this stuff up.
you can't.
And it's so poorly written that if you did make it up, nobody would buy it and people would laugh you off stage.
Yeah.
Like, it's that bad.
And then and if you were one of them, you'd cry because, you know.
I remember how naive I was back in like 2010, 2011. I remember like they were talking about this and I'm like, leave those people alone. I'm like, I don't see freaking guys with dresses at my door and all this stuff, you know, just what the hell is the big deal?
Yeah. Oh no, that's fine.
I always want to have faith in my
Stay out of
fellow
people's
human
business if
being
you do
out
that.
there, and it just never seems to work out. It sucks.
Yeah. If you want to do that behind closed doors, that's fine, but you stay out of other people's business.
Well, you stay out of the schools.
You stay out of the school, stay out of other people's business, and don't push that on kids.
Yeah.
You know, don't push it on kids, and stay out of other people's business, and don't be, you know, trotting other people off to jail for any reason. Especially for something like, you know.
Well, it's usually
and stuff.
the very high moral people
Yeah, high moral people. Exactly.
that
The moral
have
police.
all the skeletons in their closets.
Exactly. The moral police should not be, you know, having skeletons in their closet.
Who was that
like
guy? That pastor.
Oh,
He was like with an underage boy smoking meth.
yeah.
Yeah.
Haggard. Ted Haggard.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what
Those
I'm
guys
talking
are
about.
sus.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. It's like, you know, it's
Well, I
one
used
thing
to also see those people who would post on social media all the time, and they were always posting about I'm going to try to put a couple words in between the two words, the sexualization of them.
Mm-hmm.
And they would find all these pictures and post them on social media and go, look at this. This is not I'm like, how are you coming across all that?
Right. How do you even come across this stuff? Like, you have to be really interested.
You remember when that Cuties movie came out? Everybody lost
Uh-huh.
their shit.
It's like, why are you so interested?
I was like, I didn't even know this thing was the thing.
I didn't even know
Like-
this thing was existed
Right.
until you mentioned this. So why are you? Why are you looking out for this stuff?
I don't know.
You gotta wonder.
Makes you wonder.
You gotta wonder.
Makes me wonder. But I haven't been on social media in years.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't like social media.
I don't either.
It's not very social and it's not media.
It's well, except for
X.
X.
Yeah.
That's kind of taken over as the media nowadays. I have to admit that's kind of taken over as the media. You know, Gutfeld and Fox News, it kind of is the media a little bit, but kind of not, but kind of is. You know, that's borderline media, but I think people are creating their own media now.
Well, yeah. And like we said in the last show, the mainstream media is now becoming the alternative media.
Right.
So we're going to have to become the alternative to the alternative.
Yeah, and then we'll be the alt
Yeah.
media.
Pretty soon there'll be more alt media than there are genders.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the multiple gender thing is going to the wayside.
It is.
The kids that were into the
This
multiple
is the
gender
death
thing
of
is
wokeness.
yeah, the death of wokeness.
Now we can become awakened, which I always found interesting because we used to always talk about be awakened, awaken your consciousness. You know, we
Mhm.
used verbiage like that. And then they came in right around 2012 and we're like, woke,
Mhm.
woke.
Woke. Well, that started actually with Obama. He said,
Yeah.
"Go woke, vote." And it's like, what the hell is that word woke?
Woke.
That's where it started, and then
Awakened.
yeah, it's like no, it's awakened, not woke. It's like, you know, and then I think Kanye West and all of them picked up on that and ran with it back in 2012. I
Oh,
think it
did
was
they?
2008, 2012. No, it's in 2012. Yeah.
Did you hear the conspiracy theory that if you don't thank Beyonce or Jay-Z, then you wind up dead?
Oh,
It's the thing going around on
heard
TikTok.
something about that.
So when he jumped on stage with Taylor Swift way back in like 2009, he was actually saving her life by thanking Beyonce.
That's an interesting perspective.
I never thought about it like that.
I never did either. I'm gonna let you finish.
Mm-hmm. It's a strange world that's coming apart and it's coming undone.
It's coming unraveled.
I remember we did shows back in 2010, 2012 about how the hip hop scene is all gay. I guess I'll just say it like that. And how
I've heard
people
about
have
that.
to take it in
Mm.
order to get record deals and stuff
Mhm.
like that. And
It's a high
and part
price.
of me was like, no. Why would these guys want to do that? They got all the women in the world. Why would they want to do that? And you were like, it's a power thing. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of stinks.
Yeah, it's a power thing.
No pun intended. But then it turns out, no, that's true.
Yeah, because if you do that, especially if they get it on tape, then from that point onward, you're compromised and they have power over you. And they need you to be compromised because at that point, if they didn't let you be if they didn't make you be compromised, then at any point you could expose them. Because you're going to be let into certain parties and certain events that you're going to see things that you can't unsee, and that from that point onward, you could expose them. And if you weren't compromised, you could be a wild card, and they don't like wild cards, and they don't like loose ends. And so in order for you to not be a wild card, they have to compromise you. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, everybody's getting exposed.
Yeah.
I'm just grateful that the women from The View aren't exposing themselves.
Yeah. What did you just say?
Nothing.
No, the women are well, the women are being exposed too. You know, what's her name? Lopez, Jennifer Lopez. She's being implicated in the PDD thing too. She was part of the white parties too. All of them are. All of them are. Like everybody. It turns out everybody's part of it. It's all coming unraveled. Don't do that to me.
We'll catch it on the replay.
All of them are being exposed. She's in Saudi now. Lopez is the guy. I don't know about that, but I do know about this, you know.
All right.
Remember that?
Yeah. We should probably wrap it up because I'm hungry.
All right.
I haven't eaten all day. Have you eaten?
I ate a lot earlier in the day, but
we can take some calls.
yeah, let's take some calls because I think we have people that want to call in. So
Yeah.
but everyone is
Oh no, never mind.
oh, okay.
We had a couple people on the call board, but they literally just dropped. So I don't really feel like sitting in this chair too much longer. Anyways, we'll do a
Okay.
call-in show tomorrow. How about that?
Okay, yeah, we'll do a call-in show tomorrow night.
Yeah.
So
Okay. So everybody, thank you very much for hanging out with us because this was literally hanging out. Like, you know, I planned a little more structured show, but I think it was fun.
yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
And yeah, we loved.
Is it
Especially-
true? Is it true about InfoWars?
Yes.
Yeah. The
Yes,
people
it
from
is.
The Onion bought InfoWars on behalf of the families.
Yeah, and that's we
And it
talked
was
about that earlier.
forced auction. Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's disturbing.
it really is, and it looks like he got another week. It looks like the judge blocked it, but he got another week. But it doesn't look good.
The good thing is that AJ is known for his name.
Yeah,
So it doesn't matter. You can call it AJ's hour or whatever.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter what it's called. He's the personality. He's the product.
right,
So he's going to be okay in that regard.
right,
All his people are just going to go to whatever other website
Right.
there is. Yeah.
yeah. It's just yeah,
It's sad.
it's sad, but
I remember a lot of people were against that guy.
Mm-hmm.
And when he got banned, I was like, no, this is not cool.
yeah,
This is not, we all need to be rallying up behind him.
yeah. I think anybody who's
I can't believe it went this far. I mean, he got banned like 10 years ago.
alt media and not
Like you can't even post his name
Mm-hmm.
on social media.
That's right. Yeah, and I think anybody who's alt media and who's not just posting, you know, chopped up clips of politicians and lying outright, should be supported, and to a certain extent, we should support them, you know, and give them that energy to a certain extent, you know. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
What time to start tomorrow? I don't know. 7-ish
Yeah, 7-ish.
Pacific.
Yeah, Pacific time.
Seems like a good time.
It seems like a good time. For
Actually,
sure.
somebody invited me to dinner. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah,
I don't really feel like going. I told them I'm going to go, but I don't really feel like going.
yeah. We'll see.
I don't like catching up with old friends. They weren't even friends. They were just old acquaintances.
Yeah,
It's like, I stopped talking to you for a reason. And it wasn't necessarily a bad reason. It's just we had nothing in common and our conversations were boring.
yeah. And we love our tribe.
Yeah.
We love our tribe a lot more. So,
All right. So kiss the one you love right now. You never know the last time it's going to be anything else.
that we love you guys, and don't worry about what's going to happen in the future because we are
We're going to have fun anyway, guys.
we're going to have fun anyway it goes, and it's going to be
It's
entertaining.
going to be
no matter
really
what.
entertaining for sure.
Yeah,
All right. Love ya and see you even further
beyond the veil.
beyond the veil.